Do you guys know any French?
Menage a trois, right? That's French.
No, I don't. I don't know any. Do you?
And how
I know
does that
Benedict
translate to
Mather
English,
does.
Mark?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure it means something I'm thinking, right? Yeah?
Quite the way to start a Friday
Well,
here.
you're asking for my French.
I
I'm giving you
Well,
an
if you'll
example.
say it in French, you might as well say it in English.
Menage
You know,
a
come
trois
on. What are we
is,
doing?
threesome, right? Yeah.
Lace miserable, lace terrible. If you just throw like lace in front of it, aren't you good with it? Anything?
I think you're good.
Anything
Yeah.
after that sounds French-like?
From our Scott Agnes conversation, the Pacers got smoked yesterday in Paris.
Ugly in that third quarter there for the Pacers yesterday, and Victor Wembanyama is pretty incredible at basketball. We'll hit on that today, get you set for a big one in West Lafayette coming up tonight for the Boilermakers against Michigan, although maybe some IU fans will want to watch that one thinking and dreaming of what possibly could be. Get you set for championship weekend. We'll go NFC first on Sunday. Then that Chiefs-Bills game, certainly tons of eyeballs will be on that one. Lou Anarumo met the media yesterday, new Colts defensive coordinator. Play a variety of audio clips, something I think Chris Ballard should be paying attention to this weekend. We'll hit on all of it today on this Friday morning. Good Friday morning to you. Good Friday morning to our listeners.
Yeah, it's one of our last football Fridays. Like, you realize after this weekend, it's going to set in that it's college. I guess you could say that it's college basketball season, but football is almost gone. And I don't know about you, KB. I know we're tired of it. I know every Sunday morning you're waking up, you're following these Colts games and everything. But I'm sorry. I'm going to miss football. And on Sunday, it's going to be the realization that I'm probably going to have a Super Bowl that is going to sicken me. We'll get to our picks coming up at 8:30. But it's one of our last football Fridays. I mean, what are we going to do? We're running out of time.
Well, wives around the area rejoice.
Well, do they?
Finally get the remote back on a Sunday.
Yeah. Do they really want to hang out with us? That's the other thing.
Well, no, it's more of control of the TV. It's not hanging out. It's not having the ear on the couch. It's having the remote on the couch.
No, understandable. Yeah. All right. I'm fine with that. So, yeah, good morning to you guys. Cold yet again. I had no idea we were getting a fourth of inch of snow yesterday. Did you guys know that?
Nope.
Well,
It started to snow, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's been snowing for an hour and a half. What are we doing here? When did this happen?
It just kept on coming down. I was like,
What's happening?
I was like, okay, flurries, sure, that's not the most shocking thing, but yeah, continue to snow. So it does sound like it's going to warm up a little bit here as we make our way through the weekend. Boy, that third quarter yesterday, that's one of the worst quarters. It's got to be the worst quarter the Pacers have played all season. They get outscored by 25 in one quarter of basketball. The bench was terrible. Turner was terrible. And Victor Wembanyama. I don't watch a lot of Spurs. I don't, I'm not.
You don't? No, we thought you did.
Not an NBA league passer.
Okay.
I get that the Spurs have been placed in national television a little bit more. Wembanyama's incredible. I mean, it is incredible how much he affects both ends of the floor.
A lot of these guys the last few years, he's like, guys that are 7-footers that can go out and step out and shoot threes and do these all different things. They always get called aliens, right? Such and such, he moves like he's like an alien. Like, what's he doing out there? But Wemby is a dinosaur. And I don't mean that like he's a dinosaur, like he's out of touch with reality, like some sports writers become. I mean,
like he's extinct.
Yeah, like he moves like a dinosaur out there. He is one of a kind. I feel like he's only gonna be one of a kind. And I heard a couple quotes from Rick Carlisle. I know Kurt Darling's played him in his checkdowns in the 6 o'clock hour about how Carlisle's like, whatever Wemby told the team. That pump-up speech basically needs to be bottled, and every NFL team needs, the Washington Commanders need to use that, so they can walk into Philly and get the win and go to the Super Bowl. It's one of those things. It's one of 82, but the only thing I would say is this trip has been, seemingly pretty cool for the Pacers. But the object was to go out and win a couple basketball games. So, you get blown out last night. They need to rebound and they need to split this series. I mean, they really do. I know we're going to talk to Eddie White coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. It's been fun watching them kind of live this experience, and the Pacers get that experience over in Paris. But you can't go out there and get a 30-burger pasted on you to allow 140 and to have what happened in that third quarter. I swear. I mean, poor Denary, he was like, the lead's 10, the lead's 16, The lead's 25. Like, it just kept going and going. And it's too bad because it's been a fun trip thus far. But they got smoked last night.
Yeah, probably a good thing they didn't make the trip over there. That kind of felt like a COVID broadcast to me. I know it's out of their control, but
a little bit.
I was like, boy, the crowd mic, I can barely really hear anything in the background. Wembanyama, again, I would say one of the things I've been thoroughly impressed by him early in his career is, wouldn't you consider yesterday probably one of the bigger games he's played in?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, all the hype
fair.
around it, back in his home country, and he has one of the best games of his season. Go back to the gold medal game.
It's a good point.
I mean, the gold medal game. I mean, all the hype around that. And, here is, 20 years old, and he was great in that game. Like, that to me,
he's a calm player. He's a calm player. That's how I view it.
Thrives in these stages. Obviously he'll play in bigger NBA games, you would assume, down the road and all of that. So 30, 11, 6, and 5 for Wembanyama. Again, the Pacers just that third quarter. I don't think I'm going to be one that overreacts too much to the trip. Obviously the games matter. It's good to point that out. But I largely think this is an isolated week on the NBA calendar. And it's a 6-month season, and I don't think that a week spent in Paris is all of a sudden going to significantly impact the season one way or the other. Now, standings-wise, if you look at it, 1 to 2 games matters. I mean, it is a very jumbled Eastern Conference. So, obviously it's important to try and get a split coming up on Saturday, but I'm not one of these people that thinks, oh my gosh, this is 2017, the Pacers going to London, and it's all going to go to hell after this. I really don't view it in that light. This is a team that has been probably one of the more Jekyll and Hyde teams this season. So I don't think I'll overreact too much. And really, if you want to boil yesterday down to it, certainly the first half wasn't great, but it really was that third quarter. I mean, it was awful beyond belief, but that was the quarter. I mean, you hung in there in the first half, back and forth, and if this is like the Cleveland series from a couple weeks ago or the Boston series from back in December, more often than not, these teams split these, back-to-back.
Yeah, I mean, it was 30-29 first quarter. Pacers were outscored by 2 in the second quarter, so they're down 3 at half. The fourth quarter was a 5-point game, so there's an 8-point swing in there, right? I mean, if you lose the third quarter by a couple points, maybe you lose by, 10, 11, 12 points, it's not as alarming as it was by going there and losing by 30 points. So, obviously, we'll talk Pacers today. Again, Greg Rakestraw going to join us coming up at 8 o'clock. Eddie White in the 9 o'clock hour. Do we still have Paul Casaro at 9:30?
Paul Casaro.
Okay.
Metros for the Jags coming up tomorrow inside the jungle. Those jerseys look awesome.
Okay, I've not seen them. I will look them up right before we have Paul on.
They look outstanding.
Okay.
The Jags have already won 3 conference games this season. They won 2, 2, and 1 the previous 3 years. So Paul Casaro already getting it done in a positive direction there over at IU Indy. And I think it's a huge one tonight in Mackey. When you look at the Big Ten standings, and last night we saw another result where you're just scratching your head in the Big Ten. Maryland goes into the other Assembly Hall and absolutely thrashes Illinois. Again, Maryland will be in the other Assembly Hall coming up on Sunday. It's just a wild season for the Big Ten. The one outlier so far, Andy, is you just have Michigan State with no blemishes. They've had a lot of close games, but no blemishes. And the one thing about Purdue's schedule, they will only get Michigan State at the Breslin Center. So when you're talking about the unbalanced nature to these Big Ten schedules, tonight, I mean, losing 2 home games in 1 week, that's almost a death sentence for a Big Ten team trying to win a title.
It puts you behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, I mean,
there's no doubt about that.
I don't overreact too much,
no,
but
you're right.
It probably would be that. So very important for Purdue tonight. And really, for those that haven't watched Michigan this season, I mean, they are a throwback team with Dusty May. They play 2 7-footers. The Wolf Kid's kind of a point forward at times. Vlad Golden, for those that remember the Florida Atlantic run, is the big old powerful center that they throw out there as well. So, Purdue, I guess Caleb First has created a little bit more of a bigger starting lineup, but they don't necessarily match that like they have in years past. So 8 o'clock tonight, this is your Friday Fox game. Purdue a 3.5-point favorite over Dusty May and the Wolverines.
I'm excited to watch tonight, not only for the bounce back. Purdue's not going to be able to use the excuse, and it might have been a reason. I'm not willing to say it was totally a reason. The West Coast trip, they came back and they lost the other night. So I'm interested in how Purdue bounces back if they win. It's a big quad 1 win. It's a win that you'll carry into March, and you'll look at the tournament committee and say, hey, we got a good one back in January. And if you lose, it does set up it sets up a spot they really haven't been in the last couple years, right? Where Matt Painter is going to have to wonder if his team is wondering, hey, how good are we? And losing 2 games at Mackey, you're spot on, is going to put you behind the 8 ball. I tend to think Purdue wins tonight. Now, they are favored by 4.5. I'm not touching that spread. But I think the other story here is, you mentioned IU fans watching Dusty May. I think Dusty May is a storyline. I think, Michigan continues to be a top 25 team. If they move up, top 20, top 15, whatever they are, near the top of the Big Ten. If this Indiana season goes sideways, or I should say continues to go sideways, don't you think Indiana fans are going to start bellowing a little bit more if Dusty May takes over, gets some recruits?
Can they bellow anymore?
Well, that's a good point.
I'm almost picturing just a flock of cream and crimson outside of Mackey tonight when the Michigan buses roll up. Like, here's the red carpet, Dusty.
I think when they put a special up, I think I'm joining pigs.com.
It was funny when
I'm going to get on those message boards.
Dusty was on with John earlier in the week, and he mentions Coach Knight, whatever, just kind of randomly, and I'm like, imagining the foaming at the mouth of the IU fans listening to hear.
I know them.
I
have
Dusty
buddies who are foaming at the mouth every single
even
time.
Say the words, Coach Knight.
Yeah, don't say it. And then the other thing today, we'll play some of the sound. I have a couple clips that I liked. There was maybe a thing or two yesterday that maybe you didn't care for. Lou Anarumo met with the media, 17, 18 minutes, KB. We'll talk about it coming up at 7:35. Any takeaways in 30 to 60 seconds, obviously following the Colts on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think the overall notion of look at the AFC and the quarterbacks that are in this conference. If you don't do things multiple, it's not going to end well.
Right.
I could not agree more on that. I think you heard kind of some week to week. Hey, you got to be different. You've got to look at, okay, what do they have? They got the stud wideout. They've got the stud running back, et cetera, et cetera. How do we not let that guy beat us? Easier said than done, but I don't think in recent years that mindset has been adhered to enough or practiced enough for the Colts. So, I know it's kind of a mixed bag. I know Greg Doyle was heavily against what Louis Anarumo's thoughts were.
He maybe went a little bit overboard.
Yesterday.
We'll dive into that at 7:30. Just a little bit, Greg. We love you, but come on.
8:58 a.m. on a Thursday morning in January. I don't think I'm going to overreact too much to Lou Anarumo's comments. His personality, it kind of looks like some Long Island New Yorker, and I know he's got some military vibes in his background from a coaching standpoint, and I just don't necessarily see him screaming and yelling at people
He's not Wink Martindale
at that hour.
Yeah,
no.
he's not walking in there at 9 a.m. going, we're gonna blitz their ass. That's Wink Martindale.
And I do think there's an edginess that we've talked about of the Colts need to start to create more of that. And how do you do that? You can create it obviously with players. You can create it with coaches. So I can see why the Colts were attracted to him. And at the same time, I thought Anarumo made it pretty clear, he doesn't view this as a rebuild. He doesn't view this as Cincinnati, what he walked into his first couple of seasons there. Now, does that mean that don't expect a lot of young guys to be injected in this defense, expect a lot of run it back, and we'll just tweak a couple things, and we'll be more multiple, and that'll be enough? That's a little bit of a scary thought to me. I don't think the personnel is as golden as I think Chris Ballard views it to be, and the Colts view it to be. So, again, we'll have to see how that plays out here coming up in the next couple of months.
Yeah, we'll talk about it at 7:35. I had some reaction to Greg Doyle's column, and that's the point. He writes something, you're supposed to react. So we'll react to that, or at least I will. My takeaway was your takeaway, actually. And you kind of surprised me with that. Actually, you didn't surprise me with that. We'll play the sound. But, him talking about, hey, there's a lot of good quarterbacks in the NFL. There's a lot of great quarterbacks in the AFC. And you at one point he said, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over. And if you weren't wowed by Lou yesterday, he's telling you we're not going to do the same thing over and over like you just did with Gus Bradley. And I don't know if it works out, and time will tell. In the next year, 2 years, we'll see exactly what happens here with the Colts franchise. But, to me, I love that answer. That's the thing I liked the most from it was, hey, we have to know that we're going to change things up against these elite quarterbacks. You cannot make it easy for these quarterbacks. And KB, the conversation with the Colts the last couple years hasn't been them making it difficult on elite quarterbacks. It's they can't make it difficult on bad quarterbacks. I'm not even, to hell with Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and and those sorts of guys. What about Malik Willis? What about Mason Rudolph and Mac Jones? Right? What about Drake May? Those are or Aaron Rodgers. Like, those are the kind of guys.
Don't forget about your guy, Drew Lock.
Drew Lock's the best example. Yeah, how could we forget? So I'm not overreacting, but there was a thing or two I probably had eyebrows raised as well. We have all the drama in Jacksonville we're going to dive into. I got a parking ticket I need you guys' help with, if I fight it or not. I don't know if you guys have ever fought one
hell yeah,
in the city of
him.
Indianapolis. I'm sure you have. Well, I've never done that here in the city.
I fought, and they've got the last laugh.
That's kind of what I figured would be the case. So it's a Feel Good Friday. It's a Football Friday. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Your morning check down. It's coming up next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Coming up, we'll talk some Colts. Lou Anarumo met the media yesterday. I've got a Chris Ballard thought in relation to the Final Four teams left here coming up on Sunday. Joining us from Paris will be Eddie White at 9, and we're going to need Eddie's energy around what was an ugly third quarter yesterday across the pond.
Yeah, 140-110. That's your final last night in Paris, San Antonio over the Pacers. You settled in at 2 o'clock, KB. It was all good, and then things just fell apart in that third quarter. Pacers outscored 45-23 in the fourth quarter. Wembanyama is awesome. 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks in the game last night. I think the punch to the gut, though, was, guys like Harrison Barnes had 20 points last night. Devin Vassell had 25 points as well. Pacers were led, I think really one of the only positive parts, Benedict Mathurin, 24 points in the loss last night. Up next, it's going to be Saturday. It's going to be tomorrow. High noon, our coverage, 11:30 right here on The Fan.
Yeah, the guys that speak French were the only good Pacer players, right?
That's a great point. I mean, Obi Toppin had the one quarter, and then he tried 2 step-back threes. They didn't go in, and he was done for the day, basically.
Mather and Siakam, about the only two showed up yesterday. Aaron Nesmith did play into the third quarter, and again, Jarris Walker looks to be the odd man out. I know Carlisle turned to him late in the third. At that point, he was looking for anything, so that'll be something to continue to monitor. All right, tonight in Mackey, it's your 8 o'clock Fox Friday night game. Purdue's favored by 3.5. This will wrap up a 6-game and 16-day stretch for Matt Painter's bunch. And as we said, open up the show, this is important. You look at the Big Ten standings right now. Michigan's got 1 loss. You will see them again, but I think it is a very, very important game to kind of set Purdue up in a position to try and capture another Big Ten title. And Michigan, if you haven't seen them this season, they'll throw a couple 7-footers at you. It's a very unique look in today's college basketball. So again, Purdue in Michigan tonight. Butler will welcome Chris Holtmann back into Hinkle tomorrow. They've got DePaul at 4 o'clock. And Indiana, their lone home game in a 5-game stretch. They'll get Maryland Sunday at noon. Again, Maryland is a little bit of a unique look in the big men with Derek Queen and Julian Reese. And they got a very impressive victory last night at Illinois by 22 points.
Queen's great, man. I don't know how much you've seen of him. I've seen about 4 or 5 games. I mean, he put up 25, 26, 27 points last night.
The one that maybe got away, right? For Indiana from a recruiting standpoint, weren't they?
Yeah.
Very rumored to be up there. I guess he is
probably.
kind of a Maryland local. I think he's DMV kid, but still. I know Indiana really wanted him from a recruiting standpoint.
Yeah, I'm going to go JMV here. I kind of feel like that's almost a must-win coming up for the Indiana Hoosiers on Sunday. Quickly, NFL, NFC, AFC championship games, Eagles and Commanders. Philly favored by 6, 3 o'clock on Fox. Chiefs and Bills, the one everyone's waiting for, 6:30 CBS. The Chiefs favored by 2. And KB at 8:30, we'll give you our picks and tell you if the Chiefs are really favored by the NFL officials in the playoffs. How does that sound?
Ooh, that sounds juicy.
Does that sound good for you? Is that a tease?
NBA All-Stars announced yesterday. That would be the starters. East, Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis, and Karl Anthony Towns. Out west, Steph Curry and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in the backcourt. LeBron, Durant, and Jokic. Will we go All-Star lists here in Indiana?
Yes. I believe so.
So coaches pick the reserves. I could see Siakam maybe backdooring as well.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to say
who's take a closer look at the forwards. I don't think Halliburton
I would agree.
deserves it, but I probably should take a closer look at that.
Yeah, we'll take a closer look next week. I know the NBA on TNT guys were talking about that. I think Siakam would have actually a better chance than Halliburton, but we'll see. Those are going to be announced coming up next week. All right, on the other side, I know, KB, you have a thought on Chris Ballard. What did Lou Anarumo say, and should I fight this parking ticket? We'll do it all. We'll do it next. It's a Football Friday, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Talk some Colts here. Lou Anarumo, a new defensive coordinator, announced yesterday, and get into the saga of what I think appears to be a new head coach in the AFC South. And I had no idea this man had this much clout.
That's my guy, Liam Cohen, man.
Unbelievable. Just barking orders around like he's an SEC football coach in town here. Speaking of that, did you see we got some announcements yesterday of never too early to look ahead to next year's college football season? Do you see when Belichick's first game's going to be?
No, when's Belichick's first game? Who does he have?
Yeah.
Slotted him into the Monday Labor Day night
I'm sure.
slot.
Who do they have?
Standalone game.
Do they have like Virginia Tech? Have they announced who it is?
They have
Like
got
Virginia or something?
The team that has fallen off an absolute cliff since making it to the national title, the Horned Frogs of Texas Christian.
Oh, so they have TCU. Gotcha. How about
So
that?
Belichick's first game again. I think college football has done a great job of really getting that Labor Day weekend, that full weekend, and they've balanced it out nicely. Actually, Sunday night will be Notre Dame at Miami.
I'll take Notre Dame minus the number. Who's your quarterback? Is it Angeli?
I Notre Dame might be getting points in that game.
Yeah, I don't care. I'm not
Carson
a Miami fan.
Beck, the University of Miami quarterback, of course. We'll see how Notre Dame plays out, but that's a nice weekend. Saturday's loaded as well, but Sunday you get Notre Dame, Miami, and then Monday you get Belichick in the standalone. I like it.
That's pretty good. Now, you have to admit that when you look at Carson Beck's face, you can't like him. He's just got an unlikable face, doesn't he?
Well, it was funny kind of leading into that Georgia. I would agree. Leading into that
you.
Georgia game a lot. I mean, there was Georgia fans that were reaching out like, no, I'm glad that Gunner, whatever his name is,
Oh, yeah.
is going to be the quarterback.
They hated Carson Beck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
now, he dates one of those twins?
He dates, okay, so I forget it's, what is it? It's Hannah and Haley.
Cavender, right?
Yeah,
Is their last
Cavender.
name?
They're back at Miami. They're twins. They play basketball. They're all over my Instagram account. They're all over the feed. One is dating Carson Beck. The other is dating the Cowboys tight end. I'm blanking on his name. The Cowboys tight end.
Oh, is it the guy here?
The young guy. I forget his name. I'm blanking
not
on it.
Hendershot.
No,
The local kid?
No,
Oh,
I'm just totally
Jake Ferguson?
Yep, Jake Ferguson. So Jake Ferguson is blossoming right now, hanging out with the Cavenders. Now they're hygiene. I mean, they're college students. I almost sound like an old man here, but it's every day. If they're on a boat every day.
Oh, yeah.
They're going out. It's nightlife every day. It's just like to be them and to be 23
Yeah, I'm
years old.
just trying to get a good deal at Taco John's at Gresham and
I mean,
Bloomington.
my God. I mean, Carson Beck's going to make more than $4 million to go 7-5 or 8-4 at Miami. Listen, Cam Ward, we're not going to do college football here, but Cam Ward won them games. They won 50-50 games. They got a little officiating help. Miami's going to have 4 stars. They're going to have 5 stars. Give me Notre Dame plus the number, minus the number, whatever. I think Miami comes back down to earth. I don't think we're talking about them being in the college football playoff. That's just me.
What I liked from Lou Anarumo yesterday was this. I didn't think we ever got in the Gus Bradley era words or actions that indicated, hey, this is a different quarterback than we faced last week. We need to change things up. We need to identify what this offense does well, and don't let that specific attribute beat us. He was very clear. Like, look at the AFC right now. I mean, and he's right. I mean, it is a golden era for quarterbacks in this conference. You've got to keep those guys off balance. In critical situations, they can't sit there and say, hey, 3rd and 7, I know the Colts do this 88% of the time. And I think that is welcome. You will see more blitzing. I think you will see more man coverage. You maybe won't see as much of it as some other defensive coordinator hires that could have been there, but you will see more of that. Just that general thought and idea, Andy, it was needed, and I would argue was refreshing to hear yesterday.
Yeah, let's play that clip. So here's Anarumo yesterday talking about making quarterbacks uncomfortable, like KB mentioned in the AFC.
I think you have to be flexible these days and multiple. When you're playing the quarterbacks, especially on our
Computer's garbage.
All right,
side
so
in the AFC,
do you just want to stop it?
going against Joe every day in practice, trying to guard T and Jamar and guys like that. And, it lends to not just, hey, you're going to be in this coverage, you're going to stay in that, and, be a long day. And then going through the playoffs and things like that into the Super Bowl, you have to keep those great quarterbacks off balance. I think you have to make them uncomfortable. Even the best ones at times, you're not going to fool them all day, but if it's in the most critical situation, that's what you're hoping to do. And certainly that's we've had some success doing that.
That last aspect, Andy, come Sunday night, Buffalo's going to have Mahomes in a 3rd and 6. And you're going to sit there and you're going to say, I wonder how he'll pick it up. Will it be Mahomes? Will it be Kelsey? Will it be a scramble? Will McCole Hardman rise from the ground?
Will Xavier Worthy be a part of it? Sure.
Right. And you're just waiting for him. How will he pick it up? And the question for, what's his name? Bobby, whatever his name is, defensive coordinator there, Sean McDermott. How can you create something to where all of a sudden the snap happens and it's a different look? I think that, these games oftentimes come down to those 4-point plays. You're in the red zone and you're able to hold them to 3 instead of 7, or you're on the fringe of field goal range and now all of a sudden they've got a punt instead of, kicking 3. Those 3 and 4-point plays, this league's defined by that. And I think way too often the Colts haven't been able to get that stop. So if you want to sum up, okay, what's the most encouraging thing that I heard yesterday, I'd say that general thought was it.
Yeah, one thing to add to that, an example of that is if you go back to the first time that the Chiefs and Bills played, Patrick Mahomes had 0 rushing attempts. And, I've been reading some stuff on just what the Bills defense did in that game, for gambling purposes. And one of the main things they did in that game is they had at least one player was a spy on Mahomes. Like, you're not, and I think that's what Lou's talking a little bit about. I don't know, Mark, I don't know. I know that we're having computer issues this morning, so I'm not sure how much more sound
we're firing on all cylinders. What are you talking about?
Honestly, me and Mark were looking at each other when that sound was hiccuping. Like, we didn't know if we were going to make it through the 35 seconds or not.
Am I allowed to punch technology?
Sound like the Pacers in the 3rd quarter.
Well, we did get a response to unplug it and plug it back in.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh, I got an email, everybody, in case you wanted to know.
It's an N64 cartridge from back in the day.
So we did
blow on it and put it back in there.
The video cord we've tightened and loosened 3 or 4 times, and at one point I was touching the cord and everything was working, but as soon as my magic hand left it, KB, the computer shut back off again.
You need to keep shuffling your feet and get that static electricity going.
Right. So maybe I do. Maybe I just need to sit here and hold this cord for the next 3.
Yeah.
If that's what it takes, I'm a team player. I'll do whatever. I would say. I don't know. Mark, let's try one more. This is one of the clips that Greg Doyle used in his column where you could say Lou Anarumo sounded a little bit like Gus Bradley.
Which one is this
Number
now?
3. He was asked about his defensive philosophy.
I think one of the things that we'll hang our hat on it will be, we're always going to try to be a smart, fast, and physical team. Those 3 things. You don't want to beat yourself in this league. You want to make sure that guys know where their help is on every down, no unforced errors, things like that, where you can eliminate and win games by just allowing the other team to make their mistakes, and we're going to, stay steadfast. If you don't play fast, you don't have a chance, and certainly coming from the AFC North, it's a physical division, and certainly we that's everybody in football prides themselves on that, but that's certainly.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll ring home.
I think that computer's about done. It just, it was a sense, and he said it a couple different times, we're going to let the other team make a mistake. We're going to play solid. And does that sound like Gus Bradley? But just going back to, if you haven't read Greg Doyle's piece, I am going to at least wait a little bit until I see Anarumo get his hands on this defense.
Yeah, that's
one
kind of
where I'm at.
Yeah, that phrase I didn't love. The whole, we're going to let the defense make the mistake. And again, there's evidence of him being, I would say, a little bit more content from a yardage standpoint. Now, you look at their completion percentage allowed and just some things like that. And again, they've been better than the Colts in those areas. He was pretty adamant as well yesterday that, like, when I took the Cincinnati job, that was an old defense that needed turnover. I didn't get that vibe from him at all. And I guess that's the next item on the offseason checklist, Andy, that my attention turns to of curiosity. What personnel, if any, will change defensively in a significant manner? Because I would argue you do need some new blood on that side of the ball. And I'll be really, really interested to see what that looks like. Again, they can bring back 9 of their 11 starters. Hell, they can bring back all 11. But EJ Speed and Julian Blackmon are your 2 free agents. Dio Dangbo, I would say, is another notable defensive free agent. But what's different? mean, was he attracted to this because he doesn't think it's much of a rebuild, and he thinks, hey, if I just tweak a thing or two.
Well, I think that's the case.
And I'm back in the Midwest, and I have ties in the state of Indiana. By the way, joining us Tuesday on the show will be, again, Lou Anarumo, coached at Purdue for 8 years, will be certainly a player that Purdue fans are very fond of, Bernard Pollard. You want to talk about a man that probably wouldn't thrive in today's NFL with how hard he was hitting?
I was about to say he'd be fined $200,000 through week 3.
So he would join us coming up Tuesday at 9 o'clock.
Well, I mean, listen, I don't think this is a rebuild, but it's also not a run it back. And that's what makes it a little bit tricky, does it not? For instance, if I give you don't bring back EJ Speed, okay? I don't think that's a crazy conversation to have. Let's use him. And you're going to need another linebacker, right? Okay, so we know that. If you don't bring back Blackman, you're going to need another safety. And I think with Anarumo having his pick maybe at safety, we know that's a big position for him. We know he's a defensive back guy. Plus, this is a very deep draft when it comes to safety and defensive players. So if I give you a linebacker and a safety, and I give you, whether they bring Dio back or not, I give you they're going to probably look somewhere for another pass rusher. And I give you that Anarumo helped Trey Hendrickson become what he is. I'm not giving him full credit, but I'm saying, you coached him. I think there is something where you hire an assistant coach because, an offensive guy has had success with an offensive line, Shane Steichen teaching the quarterback room. He makes Latu a little bit better. So if I tell you that you're going to add a piece somewhere on the defensive line, that you're hoping to get Latu to take another step here in his NFL progression, and I give you a new linebacker and a new safety, to me, I almost feel like that's not run it back, but it's also not, it's kind of in the middle. It's not run it back, but it's also not an entirely new defense. I guess I'm asking, would that be enough? Is that enough to suffice what you are saying? Because I agree with you for the most part.
I mean, the cop-out would be, I'd obviously love to see the names. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at of like, okay, you hear Chris Ballard say that, hey, we need more tough guys late in the season. We're unable to win these must-have games against bad quarterbacks. What needs to change? He says we need more tough guys.
I know. Then you bring everybody back. I know.
Okay, so where are you getting the tough guys? Because Andrew Luck and Phillip Rivers aren't showing up next year. I mean, when you won those late season games in 18 and 20, you can point to the quarterback, and that type of quarterback's not going to happen. I am interested in this, and maybe it's a bigger topic down the road, Andy. Would you entertain trading the 14th overall pick for a key veteran? They traded the 13th overall pick for DeForest Buckner, back a handful of years ago. Are they in this sort of position where you see teams with a rookie contract quarterbacks do moves like this? We're going to see Philly, obviously, in the NFC title game coming up tomorrow or Sunday, and they did the A.J. Brown thing a couple of years ago. If you look at it, whether it was Buffalo, even Miami with Tyreek Hill, teams kind of do this. I would say Houston, in a way, did that. Again, something that I stressed on Monday for those that missed the show, as much as you can point to these Final Four teams, and you can probably throw 3 of them and say, well, Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts, and Philly in general, that doesn't shock me that they're there. Okay, why are the Commanders there? Yes, it's Jaden Daniels, but with a rookie contract quarterback, they went out and got an Austin Eckler, got a Zach Ertz, got a Bobby Wagner, got a Jeremy Chin, Dante Fowler Jr. Some of these guys that
Marshawn Lattimore
aren't breaking the bank per se, but they are veteran free agent signings that if I'm Chris Ballard and I'm looking at, these Final Four teams, you can do what Washington did.
You can.
Like, that's not earth-shattering what they did, yet it's incremental support for your young rookie quarterback. That is something of, again, maybe it's not the magnitude of trading the 14th overall pick, which obviously is a big deal, but with $28 million in cap space and the opportunity to create even more than that, those are some of the things that I point to and say, that is a Final Four element that Washington was able to help their turnaround. And I don't think in any way, shape, or form, it's a lot of just kind of short-term deals, but it gets different voices, different cultures, different backgrounds, different leadership styles, guys that have been there, done that. That is a huge part of, I think, what I want to see happen here over the next couple months.
I mean, Zach Ertz is a great pickup. He had I'm looking it up right now. He had 66 catches and 7 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Austin Eckler had 40 catches. I mean, that's a big deal. The Colts don't have either one of those things.
And again, that production is one thing, but what about just guys that have been in winning cultures?
Right.
Washington has been a laughingstock of a franchise for the last X amount of years. I mean, the Colts have been a bit of a laughingstock. I mean, that's the reality of like when you are, one of 5 or 6 teams to have as long of a playoff drought as they've had. I think you need to inject some winning culture guys. Okay. So, in different ways, the names that I just listed, the 5 or 6 names, they have been either to the mountaintop or made some deep runs. I think that can help you out big time.
Yeah, listen, I'm not a total picks are overrated, but if you need to do the Rams thing, the Rams just kept trading picks and they built a team on good players and they went out and got players in a quarterback and a cornerback and, they fortified their defensive line by making moves and they kind of said, our high picks are going to be overrated. Now, that's good when you can go get Puka Nacua in the 4th or 5th round, too. You also got to know how to draft. So, listen, I know it's a conversation as we go, and we'll switch things here in a second, but I am absolutely okay that if there are veterans out there that he wants to pinpoint to get in free agency or in the draft, I am good with that to make a move. If it's, they tried to move up last year, if you believe things with the New York Giants to get, possibly Malik Neighbors or somebody like that, I'm fine. And if Tyler Warren's gone, if he goes top 10 or 11 and you're the Colts right there, it comes down to you're going to take a safety at 14 or are you going to make a move for, maybe a player that really might make a difference. I'm fine. I'm fine with all that. I have no problem with any of that.
Does that decision need to happen before that Thursday in April when the draft rolls around?
And that's a great question.
I mean,
yeah,
Buckner,
I don't know.
A lot of those trades you see happen. Yes, the A.J. Brown trade happened night up.
When was Buckner?
But Buckner, if I'm not mistaken, Mark can double check this, I thought it was kind of right before the start of the league new year.
Gotcha.
So free agency mid-March, something right around then. That would be a question. If you have identified and said, guys, we love Warren, but whatever, he's not getting to us at 14, and you have to do that early on, is that something that you would entertain? So, again, I wasn't that turned off by Anarumo yesterday. Whatever, it's 8:58 on Thursday morning. I don't know how fiery that you want. I thought there were some comments that sounded a bit Gus-like, but I thought there were definitely some things that sounded different than that, and I would say his track record of being multiple and making adjustments within games and being a week-to-week game planner, I'm going to weigh that more than 18 minutes on a Thursday morning.
I understand if you're of the belief, and probably Greg Doyle is of the belief, and listen, I get this, of the belief that I'm not in the business to trust the Colts and their decisions. That's an understandable conversation to have. I am partially there. I'm with you. It's why I was so mystified why everyone was believing in Anthony Richardson, yet they didn't believe in anything else that Chris Ballard has done around here for a number of years. That's because there is hope. That's because the way you're good as a quarterback. That's because you need him to play well for you to actually be a team that's going to matter. But I tend to be like you. Let's see what they do. Let's see him coach, a game before it's, I'm down on Lou Anarumo. I think a lot of times, with these defensive coordinators, KB, you're going to get a guy that got fired, right? A guy that moved on. I mean, Steve Wilkes, if you were to hire Steve Wilkes, Steve Wilkes got fired 2 years ago. They took a year off. He got fired in San Francisco, then took a year off. So there would always be things to nitpick. One thing I wanted to get you here, top of the hour, Greg Rakestraw is going to join us. Are you turned off? Do you care at all with how it went down with Liam Cohen?
Oh, I think it's hilarious.
Okay, so do I.
I think it's funny, but I must say, and you are a Liam Cohen guy, maybe you can share some thoughts on that. I had no idea that this dude, who I would have guessed is just some Hollywood B-list actor, has this type of clout in the NFL.
He sounds like a soccer player. Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen scored 2 goals.
Liam Cohen with a cracker.
Yeah, he scored 2 goals last night. He really dominated.
You're going to save the men's national team. The next Michael Bradley in the midfield.
You're right.
Since when is he, I thought we only had 2 hyped individuals in the world right now. I thought no one can be more hyped right now than Arch Manning and Ben Johnson.
Oh, wow. I was wondering who your second one was going to be. I mean, Ben Johnson is obviously
number one. Those are the 2 most hyped individuals in the entire world right now. And now I'm like, wait, is Liam Cohen? Is that his music that I'm hearing?
My theory on this is the Bears lucked out My theory on it is Ben Johnson takes the Jacksonville job. In our conversation here with the
If
AFC
Balky's
South,
out, you're saying?
Yeah, if Trent Baalke got fired 3 weeks ago, whatever it was, the GM there who got run out of town, not even 48 hours ago, if he would have been let go, I'm just throwing out there, I'm wondering if Ben Johnson gets that job, and then Mark, I don't know what Chicago does, if it's Mike McCarthy, and then if it's not that, then you're like, oh my God,
Joe Brady or Mike McCarthy
what
would have been
are we actually going to end up with? So that's number one. Number two, and I tweeted this out, Liam Cohen has played this in his career perfectly. He went to, I'll give you the backstory. So when I followed Kentucky football, Mark Stoops is a defensive coach. He is offensive illiterate. KB, I can't even tell you. This guy played a wide receiver at quarterback in a year because he didn't have a quarterback, okay? I mean, this guy, he was a dunce. He is a dunce when it comes to the offensive side of the football. And Liam Cohen came in, and they got Will Levis, and they got Wan'Dale Robinson and some other players, and they won 10 games. And then Liam Cohen took that, and he went to the NFL, and who did he sit next to? Who do you need to sit next to if you're going to be seen as a great offensive mind in the NFL? Sean McVay.
Yeah, I'd like to sit next to Mrs. McVay, but I understand where you're coming from.
She's a realtor now. I don't know if you knew that. Yes,
Really?
I do follow her on Instagram.
Good Lord, your algorithm is out of
in case
control.
anyone was wondering. So anyway, she was a Ukrainian swimsuit model beforehand. Sean McVay, in a spiked gelled haircut, is doing pretty good. So he then took that and went 1 year with McVay. Of course, you sit at the right hand of the Lord, right? Of the offensive Lord. And then Stoops called him back, okay? He rejoined Kentucky and realized he needed to get out of Kentucky. And right before the season, he left, and that's when he went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So he pretty much has rode the coattails of
defensive coaches.
NFL-wise. He has been with Sean McVay with the Rams, who, by all accounts, it's his offense. He's obviously the play caller. And then he follows Dave Canales in Tampa,
right,
who took the job in Carolina. So he's a 2-year offensive coordinator. You could say, probably a little unfair of me, but you could say he's largely rode the coattails of different individuals. And now, in the last 48 hours, he's got a man fired, the GM in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
He was about to be paid as the highest coordinator in the NFL.
Over $4 million to be the OC
and
for
now
Todd Bowles.
He gets to hire the GM.
Yep. Basically,
he's the head coach in Jacksonville. Now he gets to hire the GM, Liam Cohen.
Listen,
it's why. I mean, of all the things the Jacksonville franchise has done, this might be the wildest.
Well, and Kentucky fans begged for him to come back. They begged. I mean, they begged for him. Oh, please come back. They're paying him over $2.5 million. This is Kentucky football paying $2.5 million.
So he is going to save Trevor Lawrence.
Boy, I think if you're Trevor Lawrence, you feel okay though, don't you? I mean, you feel like it might be the first time you have a competent. And I said this about Doug Peterson. I thought Doug Peterson would do better there. I don't mind admitting that I was wrong, but yeah, I mean, I guess if you're Trevor Lawrence, this is better than some of the other options. It's not as good as Ben Johnson, but it's better than Robert Saleh. Is it not?
Sounds like reports back to San Francisco.
Yeah.
For Bob Saleh on that. So if this Liam Cohen thing becomes finalized this morning, Dallas, Las Vegas, New Orleans. 4 down, 3 to go here.
Oh, Dallas knows who they're taking.
The NFL
they're going to
cycle.
hire Brian Schottenheimer today, and that's. Mwah.
He's one of the nicest individuals that I've ever come across.
Andy says that now before they just stomp the Giants in September.
Listen, well, congratulations. The NFL Twitter is going to roast the Cowboys when they hire Brian Schottenheimer. Twitter doesn't mean anything, but it will be funny. It'll be funny for me. It'll give me something to do and to keep warm on this 9-degree weekend that we're going to have here in Indianapolis. All right, let's take a break. Coming up on the other side, high school, what does he think of where Purdue's at? How the hell did where Indiana's at? How did Purdue lose at home? We'll do that and more. Greg Rakestraw, he joins us next.
Reminder, Pacers Spurs will round things out in Paris coming up noon tomorrow. That will be on ESPN along with Chris Teneri, Quinn Buckner, and JJ. And I'm pretty sure Michael Grady is on the call for that one coming up tomorrow at noon. So I know he's done some other Pacer national games, but pretty cool for Michael Grady to have the Paris games, a man that knows Michael Grady quite well. Let's head to the Payless Slickers hotline right now. It's Friday. It's 8 o'clock. You know what that means. The great Greg Rakestraw joins us here. Rake, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm great, fellas. How we doing?
We are good. I do this with you, I guess, every couple of weeks in these Friday segments. That is, all right, we're a month and a half away, if you will, from Selection Sunday. If I set the over-under on Indiana State teams to make it at 1.5, where would you go?
I would take the over. Purdue is the obvious, and I think one of Indiana and Notre Dame find their way to make it in, with potentially Purdue-Fort Wayne winning the Horizon League tournament.
Rake, I'm afraid Notre Dame's going to need about 100 teams to get in the tournament for them to be in.
I was thinking, I don't know if that's going to happen, Rake. So you think obviously you mentioned Purdue-Fort Wayne. So you have a gut feeling you think Indiana can hang around here and not ditch their season over the next 3 weeks? The next 3 weeks we'll decide if they get in or not.
No, I think it's possible. I don't think it's likely. But let's just say that, one of those teams might luck their way into it. Let's put it that way.
You mentioned Fort Wayne. We got Paul Casaro coming up here at 9:30. Could you share a little bit on what the jungle's going to look like coming up tomorrow afternoon?
Well, it's going to be Retro Metro Day, so they will be rocking the uniforms that have been ablaze on social media, celebrating the 40th anniversary of within IUPUI's first national tournament team, coached by Bob Lovell, that made the NAI national tournament in Kansas City. So the Metro's gear returns for the first time in several years. What you will also see is a lot of made three-point field goals. Purdue-Fort Wayne is 6th. IU Indy is 12th in terms of threes made per game. Not in the Horizon League, but in Division I. The two of them combined to make about 23 three-pointers per game. The last time they played, they made a combined 27 threes in Fort Wayne's 78-76 win at the Coliseum in Fort Wayne on December the 11th.
Some good stats to take the over in those games, KB, to get on DraftKings to do that. Greg Rakestraw with us, Payless Liquors Hotline on this Friday. Any surprise, I don't know, West Coast trip, you surprised at all that Purdue gave up a 16-point lead and really had a bad second half and lost to Ohio State the other night?
Yes and no. I mean, because of how well they had been playing. But again, this is a team that is not the outlier team that we have seen for a good chunk of the last few years. This is a good basketball team. This is not a team that is incapable of handing a 16-point lead back to somebody. So given the fact that IU had just beaten Ohio State, maybe a little surprised that it's Ohio State that did it to Purdue and Mackey. But again, this is just not that overwhelmingly good of a Purdue team that seemingly was able to avoid the occasional banana peel. That's not this group this year.
Shifting gears to the high school ranks, Greg Rakestraw joins us here, ISC Sports. Rake, I believe girls pairing show already coming up this weekend. What else is on your agenda outside of the jungle Saturday afternoon?
All right, so tonight, Lawrence North and North Central, the team that most thought would win the Marion County tournament versus the team that did win the Marion County tournament. Then tomorrow night, it is Carmel and Brownsburg. And then on Tuesday, one of my most fun nights of the year, the pairing show is a pretty fun one, too, coming up on Sunday. But I do one game in Lanesville every year, and that night is Tuesday night. The Lanesville girls, the back-to-back 1A state champs, taking on Perry Central. So anybody listening back home, if I owe you money, Tuesday night is the time to collect.
That is awesome. Is the statue of you outside the school, or is it inside?
It's actually at the farm next door in the hog pens is where they put it. I thought that was appropriate.
Nicely done there. This is probably a dumb question, but Braylon Mullins is our runaway Mr. Basketball winner?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they put him in the jersey at this point.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's that good. His stats have been that good. You know, they have kind of veered back away from what I would call the the Metro Indy state level schedule back into their conference schedule, and he's been lighting it up. Again, they'll play some more of the Indy 4A schools kind of coming up in February, but he's put up some big numbers all season long, regardless of his level of competition.
Do we carry girls pairing shows? I probably should know that.
I believe the girls is on the Fan because there's obviously no Pacers game on Sunday. I think the boys on the 23rd. I think that might be on WIBC due to a Pacers conflict. So 5 o'clock, it is a radio and video experience, one of 2 broadcasts that Bob Lovell and I do together over the course of the weekend.
Coach Lovell will be honored quite well coming up on Saturday with those jerseys in the jungle as well. Rake, as always, thank you for the time. Have some great calls this weekend, and we'll be listening.
Thanks, fellas.
Greg Rakestraw right there, Payless Liquors Hotline.
All right, I want to answer the question that you asked him because I like it. I would take the under come Selection Sunday. If you told me the over-under for teams from the state of Indiana to make the NCAA tournament is 1.5, which I believe you're right, that's the line, because obviously Purdue is going to make it. It's all about seeding and, where they're going to be shipped to and everything else. I don't know much about Purdue Fort Wayne, so I don't mind saying that, but I would take the under because I do not think Indiana is going to make the NCAA tournament. And obviously, I don't think Notre Dame is either. But can I throw something your way real quick? Now, this is not going to happen, but it's a what if. I'm going back and I'm looking at your boy Micah Shrewsbury, okay?
Uh-huh.
You guys lost to Rutgers by 1.
Right.
You lost by
That was a game I stayed up till 2 a.m. and did the show the next morning.
That's a 2 a.m. game. I forgot about that. Was that the Vegas game? And then you lost to Creighton by 4.
Yeah.
Okay. You lost to North Carolina and
Do we have to go through all of them?
Hang on. You lost to UNC and
They're all
UNC
just
State
crushing.
by 1. My point being is, if you change just 2 out of those 4, hang on, you're 10-8, and I would argue in the ACC and a chance to make a run in the ACC tournament, and given how difficult the Big Ten is and how Indiana could lose a bunch of these difficult games, I would say that Notre Dame would have almost as good of a shot to make the postseason as Indiana. But unfortunately, KB, you lost all 4 of those games. So some people look at it and say, well, Indiana, they got so many opportunities.
Yeah, the
coming
ACC is just not afforded those chances.
I know.
And
but the
Notre
flip
Dame
side is you could get wins. Indiana's going to have a bunch of losses.
Right, but again, it's the quad. I mean,
Yep.
you know how it works.
Oh,
You got to
yeah.
have the quad 1s and the quad 2s and all of those
Like Notre Dame
opportunities.
has no quad 1 wins right now.
Purdue Fort
Anyway.
Wayne, Rake brought up. They're second in the Horizon League right now. Cleveland State is first, so that could be an option. I think Ball State's kind of middle of the pack of the MAC. We'll see. Shout out to diehard Evan Sherrill of the Cardinal Faithful there. We'll see if Michael Lewis and that bunch can get on a run here. So, yeah, it looks to be a pretty quiet year, I think is the good way to put it, to sum it up from a state standpoint in the men's basketball tournament. Eddie White will join us from Paris at 9, as we mentioned with Rick. We'll have Paul Casaro on, as IU Indy has had a really nice first season, especially compared to recent years already. He's going to join us at 9. Again, conference championships coming up on Sunday. I think one thing that has just beyond impressed me about Kansas City, and they did a little bit of this last year, but I think most of it has happened this year. They now have become really good at winning ugly, or a little bit more slugfest. I mean, they don't really play a lot of games into the upper 20s or low 30s anymore.
Oh, they're not a 45-40 team.
Which-
They can beat you 23-17 every day.
You know, it was kind of a maturation that we saw from, the Peyton era Colts. If you think back to that Super Bowl run, I would argue the Colts won that in a little bit of kind of a, ugly fashion. I think can at times carry on the negative connotation. But let's just say they won it a little bit left-handed. They shut down Larry Johnson in the opener of that wild card run. Then they win a game 15-6. Only field goals, 7 field goals in Baltimore on the road. Obviously, you look at the AFC title game, that had a little bit more of a shootout feel to it. But then in the rain in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't call that, the greatest show on turf by any means. So I think that is what has made Kansas City so damn potent. It's that they can also win the long possessions, the grind it out, Harrison Butker's kicking 3 or 4 field goals, Spagnola's getting off the field with that defense. If you could add to the Kansas City praise, It's the ability to win games in other ways.
They only have 2 games over 30 points this season. Do you know
Gosh,
that?
is it really
and
that?
one of them's Carolina. One of them's Carolina. Remember they won at Carolina by 3, 30-27, going back, 2 months ago. Yeah, they have 2 games. And one of them's Carolina, and the other, Monday, November 4th, is when they went to overtime against Tampa Bay. That's it.
Is the Mahomes stat 7 years, 7 AFC championships? Is that a DiMaggio or Ripken stat?
Like one that we're going to look at and say it's not going to be.
There's no way anyone touches that, right?
Well, I mean, I doubt it. I mean, the NFL is all about
Can you imagine
parity. Look what's
Jaden Daniels getting to the NFC title game
Listen, don't
the
talk
next
about
6
it.
straight years?
I am. Listen, KB, I know we're going to give our picks. I am tormented by this weekend. This weekend has a chance to just put a knife right in my gut. I'm going to walk in here on Monday.
Yeah, this would be like a Purdue, Kentucky's in the Final Four for like Indiana fans or something.
I'm going to be, there's a chance that I walk in here Monday, a bludgeoned man.
Oh, geez.
There is a chance that I walk in here Monday after.
You want us to watch a little gas this weekend?
After hours of drinking bourbon on Sunday.
I'll take him Saturday, Mark and have him Sunday.
A couple of my neighbors have already do you want to watch one of the games? And if I do that, I know I'm gonna be drinking bourbon, and when what happened at the end of that Rams game when Kyron Williams fumbled that damn football last week, I fell to the floor. Like I fell to a knee, like I was bending the knee, like I was Obi Toppin proposing in Paris.
Me slipping on the ice.
Yeah, I looked like you slipping on. I was a broken man. I'm rooting for the Bills, obviously this weekend, and the NFC Championship game is going to kill me. Do Colts fans care at all in the AFC? Who moves on? Like I'm asking, do they care? Do they care? I mean, people are tired of Kansas City.
Right.
I understand that.
I think that. And do you have our officiating stats?
I can give you some stats. Yeah, hang on just a second.
I thought you had some stats where the NFL
I got some stats.
cheating for Kansas City.
Well,
yeah, I mean, I'm all in.
Of course they are.
Yeah, obviously I want Buffalo.
Okay, so let me give you a couple stats here. You ready for this? So I'll give you officials, and then I'll give you the officials that are going to be in the game, and then I'll give you the overall stats. Okay.
Oh man, you're really nerding
so I
out
have
on
a
this.
lot. So Rick Gosling put these out on Twitter. Clete Blakeman is going to be the official for the AFC title game. The Chiefs are 10-7 all time with Blakeman, but the Bills are 10-6. Okay, so it's basically even. Home teams with Blakeman as the head official. Home teams finish with an NFL worst 5-11 record this season with Blakeman as the ref. Again, not in the postseason, but regular and postseason and everything else.
Well, that's encouraging for people wanting the Bills.
It is. He also assessed a league-high 134 penalties against home teams, okay? So that is the officiating crew. Now, Warren Sharp, if you go to him, ESPN put some numbers out, but he put all of the numbers out. So he gave, since 2021, which, by the way, if you go back, so what was 2021? That was the heartbreaking game that the Chiefs beat the Bills. Do you remember that? Josh Allen hits Gabe Davis.
Yeah, divisional round game.
There's
yeah.
13 seconds left to go in the game. Mahomes goes. Of course, they go down in 13 seconds. They kick a field goal. They win in overtime on a walk-off touchdown with Travis Kelce. So going back to that season in 2021. Let me give you the playoff numbers. In the playoffs, that's 11 games by the Chiefs. 10 of those games, the Chiefs had less penalty yardage. That's basically 91%, okay? So 10 of 11 games, the Chiefs had less penalty yardage. Also, penalties, just penalties, not yardage. 10 of those games, again, 91%. 10 of the 11 games, the Chiefs had fewer penalties as well. The conversation here, though, is a little skewed. In the regular season, the Chiefs do not get the whistle. Since 2001, the Chiefs have only got the whistle in penalty yardage 39% of the time. But when they make the playoffs, since 2021, KB, 10 of 11 games, they've been called for fewer penalties and have had fewer penalty yards. Now, some of that is they're a good team. They're a fundamental team. The other part of that is some of the things that you have seen that have frustrated you. So just a couple numbers. I'm not saying they contradict each other, because the head referee tells you that home teams and the Chiefs don't have a big advantage. But since 2021, in those 11 games, the Chiefs have absolutely had the penalty advantage. And many, not all, but many of those games have obviously been at home.
I think that's the only cleat I know.
Yeah, I feel like we're not making cleats, but we're in a very metro area. I don't know if you went out into to eastern Kentucky or into West Virginia.
Is that where Cleat's from?
Yeah, I don't know where he's from. You want me to look that up? Cleat Blackman. I'll see if he has a. He doesn't look like a cleat either. But I don't think we're making.
I mean, again, what do cleats look like?
Well, I don't think we're making cleats. He's from Blair, Nebraska.
The Jaden Daniels stat that I can't get over is this. So he's got 2 wins in the playoffs, right? Commanders the only team to win a road game so far in the playoffs. All these home teams have won. Commanders have won twice. Jaden Daniels, 2 wins. He's got more wins in the playoffs than he has negative plays. Sacks, fumbles, interceptions.
Wow.
You add those up, he's got 1.
Wow.
He's got 2 wins. 1 negative play.
Oh, man.
I mean,
That's
is
pretty good.
Absurd.
He's good, man. He has staying power, too. Again, another heartbreaker. Mark, weren't you clapping back at Chris Canty this morning over something he said about
that
Jane
show
Daniels?
is so obnoxious. It's just a constant barrage of the Bears made a mistake. They didn't take Jaden Daniels. I'm like, Jaden Daniels wasn't going to do anything that Caleb Williams didn't do in Chicago. Did you see the blank show that Caleb Williams dealt with from week 1 to the rest of the season? Jaden Daniels wasn't going to be Jaden Daniels with the Bears. Get the hell out of here.
Mark
Chris
tweeted,
Canty and Michelle Smallman, both of them. He's Bears haters.
He tweeted at Chris Canty this morning.
Oh, you went to Twitter? I thought you were just bitching.
Well, I just got fed up with it because they're
studio.
talking about the championship and he brings out the Bears out of the blue sky. I'm like, will you shut up? Just shut up.
Like, let me be a loser in peace.
Well, no one cares.
Right?
Like, I don't think Bears fans care. Like, they're not regretting taking Caleb
But you have
Williams.
Ben Johnson now who's going to fix Caleb Williams, so you're good to go.
Chris Canty can stick it.
Who is more hype, Ben Johnson or Arch Manning?
Oh, Ben Johnson is Vince Lombardi and Bill Parcells and Bill Belichick.
I get
one.
at
You kidding
least
me?
one.
Ryan called them the next Bill Walsh.
I get at least one question a week from Colts fans saying they're tanking for Arch,
Well,
right?
You're not taking for Arch. You're not that bad. You're not that bad of a football team.
Nope.
Come on. You're just not that bad. You're going to win 2 or 3 games. Can we foresee? The Colts won 2 games. They went 2-15. Stop it. I do want to see Arch Manning play a little bit more. I mean, would he play 5 games last season?
Yeah, he was like
4
their
games last season.
He was like their change of pace guy, right? He was like their.
He started a couple games.
He was their tush push guy at times.
When Quinn Ewers got injured, he did go in there and start a few games, and he played well. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's probably going to be great next year for Texas. And Steve Sarkisian's a really good offensive and quarterback coach. But I hate to tell Colts fans, you got it with Manning, you got it with Luck. You're not going to get it with Arch.
A comment from Lou Anarumo that I'd be curious if Colts fans interpret that as an encouraging sign from him yesterday. We'll share that upcoming. Again, Eddie White live from Paris at 9. Let's go ahead with the morning checkdown.
I can't do it. Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. We will not give you Lou Anarumo sound here. Mark Dykton has thrown a computer through a wall.
I am
so
contemplating punching this
He's
thing.
thrown Chris Canty through the computer or vice
That's what's
versa.
happened.
I don't know if I could lift him up.
The ghost of I like Chris Canty. That's a Super Bowl champion. You watch your mouth
Chris
over
Canty
there.
can-
140-110. That's your final yesterday. It was night there, afternoon for us. Spurs all over the Pacers. Again, this is a 3-point game at halftime, but the third quarter, that's the story. 45-23. The Spurs just wiped up the Pacers in that third quarter. Wemby, fantastic. 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks in the win. Probably the only positive, or at least one of the positives. Benedict Mathurin was really good yesterday. 11-14. He had 25 points in the loss. The two teams are back at it tomorrow at noon. That's an ESPN game. It's also right here, 11:30 on the Fan.
Yet again, and I
That
believe,
tells you where the computer's at right now.
believe
Firing
Michael
things
Grady on the
off.
call for ESPN with that one. All right, tonight, Gus Johnson, right? That's who does these Friday 8 o'clock games. That's who did at least last week for Indiana and Ohio State. Purdue and Michigan from Mackey, a big one for the Boilers. They are a 3.5-point favorite. This wraps up a 6-game and 16-day stretch. They won't play after this until Indiana coming up next Friday night. Again, Michigan's got that unique look with the two bigs and Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf. So, it's a pretty odd kind of matchup from that sense of throwing two 7-footers. And you look at the Big Ten standings right now. Michigan State, 0 losses. Purdue goes to Michigan State. It's a lone time they play Tom Izzo's bunch. So when you talk about trying to win another Big Ten title, staying in good position heading into February, I think it's vital Purdue protects home floor, especially after what happened Tuesday night. So currently Michigan's got 1 loss in the Big Ten. Purdue's got 2. They will see the Wolverines twice. And no official report, but it sounds like the IU faithful have a long line lined up from the visitors' entrance to welcome Dusty May
Oh, is that it?
into their state tonight.
Yeah, they all going to be. The IU fan is going to be watching tonight, rooting against Purdue as much as they usually do. But there's going to be a little extra hot sauce to it with it
Does
being
the
Dusty
IU
May.
fan Google what is Mike Woodson's buyout more or what is Dusty May's buyout more?
Mike Woodson's. I mean, you lost your chance to get Dusty May. I don't know what to tell you. Right? I mean, he's not leaving Michigan basketball after 1 year to go to Indiana. I don't know what to tell you. It's just not happening. Yeah, it was last year. If you're going to get Dusty May, it was last year. You decide to keep Mike Woodson. You got to live with it. I mean, what do you want to? I mean, it is what it is.
IU Maryland, noon on Sunday. Maryland got a
It's a
very
big game.
impressive victory last night at Illinois, 91-69. The Big Ten is just wild here early on. So we'll see if Indiana can protect home floor because they've got trips to Mackey, the Kohl Center, and Breslin coming up in their next 4.
Quickly, NFL, obviously, over the weekend. We were just talking about it. We'll give our picks later on. It's the doubleheader. Eagles, Commanders at 3 o'clock. Philly favored by 6. Chiefs and Bills there at 6:30. That's your CBS game. Kansas City favored by 2.
Yeah, NBA All-Star starters announced yesterday on the East Side. Jalen Brunson, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis, and Karl Anthony Towns. Out west, Steph Curry, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. You see the Jokic stat line last night?
I did see it. Yeah. Him and Wilt Chamberlain are the only one to have, a triple-double that's, 30, 20, and 15?
Absolutely unbelievable.
Where does he go down in all time? And he's still got many years. Like he might be. It's not stupid to think that he actually might be the best statistical, basketball player of all time.
I mean, you talk about
It's
balance.
not crazy.
And, yeah, I mean, all of that. I mean, just absurd what he puts up. The official stat line last night for the Joker, 35, 22, and 17.
Wow. It's unbelievable.
35 points, 22 rebounds, 17 assists, 1 turnover in 37 minutes of action. We'll see about the Pacers getting any All-Stars. I don't know. I'm not really holding my breath,
No,
but you would
neither
think
am I.
maybe Pascal Siakam coaches decide the reserves. That'll be announced next week. Again, 7 reserves to round it out. So we'll see about Pascal Siakam or I guess maybe Tyrese Halliburton. But again, I'm not holding my breath.
Eddie White coming up at 9 o'clock. Our picks as well. It's a Football Friday. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Give some picks for conference championship weekend coming up in a few. Again, one more thought. Lou Anarumo, encouraging or not, based off a comment that he said yesterday. We probably will rely heavily on Mark's expertise for this. I was on a call earlier this week. So a week from today is SmackDown.
Yes.
And a week from tomorrow, Royal Rumble.
Yes.
Oh, Mark, I got a story for you, man.
So they're saying about 65,000 for Royal Rumble. About 50 to 70% of that is out of market people, and the past economic impact has been about 40 million in their respective cities. Do you think the Pacers bumped up their tip time because of that?
I would
they're
imagine
5
so.
o'clock next Saturday.
I would.
5 o'clock's kind of an odd start time on a Saturday.
Yeah, I would. Listen. These are big deals. I mean, these things coming. I mean, WrestleMania obviously is the biggest, but these are massive deals.
It's going to be a week-long thing.
So
like they get into town, and there's going to be meet and greets. There's going to be wrestling
shows. Can you explain
shows
the difference between Friday and Saturday?
So
SmackDown versus Royal Rumble.
Friday is SmackDown. It's their weekly show. That'll just be like the 2-hour. It's the go-home show for pay-per-views. So it's the last big way to sell you to check out the show on Saturday and everything like that. So it'll be a smaller show. It'll be 3 hours. It's a 3-hour show now, but that'll be their SmackDown roster doing like the last little bit of storylines and getting you pumped for the big matches and everything like that. I'm sure there'll be a big final segment to get you pumped for Saturday. And then Saturday is the big mecca. You go to Lucas Oil Stadium. It'll be celebrities, athletes, big pomp and circumstance. It's the kickoff. It is the road to WrestleMania, the start of the road to WrestleMania. So you'll get the Royal Rumble. The giant WrestleMania sign will be in Lucas Oil Stadium. It'll be shown 1,000 times. And it'll be plenty of action, packed house. It should be a good time because this is the Super Bowl run for the WWE right now.
Well, I think as a show, I think we need to headline Mark Dykton because he still follows it. And I would say this: I am in the middle. And I don't follow it anymore very much. I obviously watch some of the big events, and I have a buddy or two that still follows it or whatever. And so I feel like Mark Dykton, he knows everything. I know a little bit, especially when you go back to 90s and early 2000s.
I know nothing.
KB, I feel like you know nothing. So when you ask the difference between Friday and Saturday, I feel like you don't know the difference between Friday and Saturday.
You come with me to the press junket
That's
on
literally
Friday.
why I asked it. I mean, that's why I hopped on this call. I'm like, I need to learn something
I think
about it. So they're redoing the street signs. They're going to do that here coming up.
Yep.
Pacers night Wednesday. So remember, the Pacers are in Paris tomorrow noon. They'll come back Wednesday night. The Pistons in town. Very fittingly, that's returned into a rivalry all of a sudden. And it's going to be WWE night.
Oh, that's perfect. Isaiah Stewart's going to be trying
for
to
the
fight
Pacers
James
and Pistons.
Johnson.
So they're going to do limited edition Tyrese Halliburton WWE bobblehead.
Oh, God. People are going to be lined up for 3 hours.
Mark
Good for them.
Montez Ford. Bianca
They are
Belair.
husband and wife in real life.
They will be in attendance on Wednesday night.
Wow.
So for those looking at an early WWE experience, you'll get that Wednesday over at Gamebridge. Think Convention Center for a lot of these meet and greets, autographs, very similar to whatever, Combine, Final Four, et cetera, et cetera. And then, I literally asked that question to be educated, the difference between SmackDown and Royal Rumble.
My daughters love Bianca Belair. They love her hair. She's got this humongous ponytail, and she whips opponents with it, and it is fantastic. They love it.
Two things. Number one, I think on the show starting maybe next week, we need to teach KB about wrestling.
Yeah.
I can help a little bit, but you're going to have to be the main teacher. I'll be the assistant professor.
Now, is it fake or real?
Okay.
Oh,
now
don't
here we
do
go.
this.
All right. Settle down a second.
Well, it's a question. Can you not ask questions?
It is predetermined.
It's both.
The results are predetermined. The action, the physicality,
it sounded like
that's
Mark
all
was writing a
real.
press release, and I go, is it fake or real?
No,
He goes, the matches are predetermined.
I've
Boy,
gotten
that's
this
the most
argument with-
eloquent thing you've said.
I've gotten in this argument with Jake. So yes, the results are predetermined, but the actual physicality and all that stuff, the men and women are actually throwing their bodies on the mats and stuff. And if you've looked at wrestling rings, it's just plywood is underneath there. It's just pieces of wood and a thin mat. So when you're hitting the ring, it's not like you're landing on cushions and stuff. It's very, very
it's
hard
not a
wood.
waterbed. This is just
No.
2x4s.
No. So
My parents had a waterbed.
that stuff's all
growing up.
real. A producer used to work here, Kyle Wells. He's a wrestler now.
I forgot about Kyle Wells.
Kyle Wells is amazing.
Mark, I need to tell you this, and then we'll move on.
What was his wrestling name? Mongo or something?
Oh, Mega Mondo.
Oh,
you don't want to mess with him.
That's fantastic. So yesterday, and I found this out right after the show. I have a buddy in the Louisville area. He's my age. You know, he doesn't follow wrestling too much, but you know the pay-per-views are all on what? Is it Netflix or Peacock?
It's on Peacock for now, but now with the Netflix acquisition, it might eventually
move over. So that's going to move over. But you know, and so I would when I lived in the area in southern Indiana, I'd go to his house, and he had 2 kids, and one's about 8, 9 years old, and one's like 6, and so they're right in the they're wrestling, they're jumping off a couch and they're wrestling, and so I followed it, WrestleMania and a Royal Rumble here or there. I'm not watching it week in, week out, but I kind of know what's going on a little bit.
My two brothers are the same way. They just watch the pay-per-views.
Yeah, and then I have another buddy who's like way into it. He's a little bit like Mark, where it's like a little questionable. Like, are you sure you still want to be into it? But anyway, so he's really into it. I found out that those 2 guys and these kids, they got tickets to Royal Rumble and didn't tell me.
Oh wow!
I live 5 minutes from Lucas Oil Stadium.
But they don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that
you're on the
much
pay no mind list.
That much is obvious. And then they tried this thing. Well, there's a ticket available, 2 rows in front of us. I'm like, oh, so that's great. So I'm gonna sit next to a family while you guys are 10 feet away.
You're gonna bother a family like, who's that? What's going on?
How's the setup gonna be? Are they just throwing this ring at like the 50-yard line, or do you put people on the floor?
No, you put people on the floor, but it's going to be.
So it's more than 70,000.
Oh yeah. And those tickets for like the entrance, I mean, those are.
Oh, they're going for like $5,000.
Yeah, those are big time tickets. But they got tickets in front of the window, the 400 section, which is a fine seat, and they got it for a couple $100. And of course, now in the secondary market, that ticket's over $300. But I'm also like, guys, both of you guys have come up here and visited me in Indianapolis, and we went out and we've had beers, and you're my boys.
They don't need Blackacre, Giacomo. They don't need any of
They
that.
figured you wouldn't be interested.
Like, I'm sitting there thinking, you could have at least extended it to me. Hey, do you want to go with us? I got nothing, and I found out yesterday. I forget how I found out. It was just random. I'm like, I'm kind of heartbroken here, guys. I'm 6 minutes from Lucas Oil Stadium. What are we doing?
We'll give our picks. NFC, AFC title game coming up here in a few. Lou Anarumo had a comment yesterday, Andy, where he felt like in Cincinnati when he took over, it was an old defense that needed overhaul. Doesn't see it this way at all. If you're a Colts fan, do you find that encouraging of like he thinks it's a quick fix? Or are you a little worried that like, oh boy, is everyone still in agreement on the personnel here? Because go back to Chris Ballard.
Oh, I know.
At the season-ending press conference. I think he was disappointed with the play in the secondary. Wasn't disappointed really at all with the front. Felt like the defensive line played pretty well. Linebacker didn't necessarily give a direct answer on, but I guess that was an answer that, again, Anarumo doesn't feel like it's going to take too long, if you will. But then at the same time, I'm sitting here thinking, boy, are you sure this personnel's right?
Yeah, but isn't this the problem with the team is...
Like, was missed tackling just simply we didn't have enough guys around the ball?
Yeah.
That's kind of what Anarumo said yesterday.
It's... With what Lou said yesterday, it makes you think, and I can understand this, that Gus Bradley was that bad. I mean,
right.
I think if
he didn't say that, but that's the vibe that I got.
I think if you're a Colts fan, you don't want to only rely on Gus Bradley was that ineffective and that out of touch, and they couldn't tackle, and they were a basic defense. But I think if you're a Colts fan, because you're not going to be able to turn over the entire defense. I think a huge part will be what are these players under another defensive coach and in another defensive scheme. And while I can buy into that they're going to be much better moving on from Gus Bradley and going with Lou Anarumo, I'm with you that I still need a few different people, personnel-wise. I mean, they have moves. They're going to have to get a linebacker. They're going to have to get a safety. They were very lucky last year that Samuel Womack ended up turning into a fine player and a healthy player for them the majority of the season. But, corner, linebacker, the development of Latu, there's 3-4 things they're going to have to do this offseason for me to feel better about that defense, regardless of who the defensive coordinator is. The last thing I'll say about this is, he's saying that about this. If he believes that about this group, the stats showed last year that the Colts were one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, a lot of the stats showed that they were 20th, 25th, 27th, 28th in a lot of those stats. So We'll see. Again, I'm not going to judge too much until I at least see what they do in the draft, if they can pick up a free agent. And I need to see this guy and what he can do. I forget the promo we're running with Jake and Jimmy. I forget who they had on. Cincinnati the last couple years did not have a lot of talent on the defensive side of the ball. I would imagine Anarumo looks at what the Colts have and says, okay, I don't have a Trey Hendrickson, but I do have a little bit more from top to bottom, 1 through 11, than I had there in Cincinnati.
Yeah,
I don't think that's crazy.
I don't want to be a big age guy, but Grover Stewart will turn 32 this year, Buckner 31. If you bring back Speed 30, Kenny Moore 30. I mean, Tyquan Lewis is nearing 30. Zaire Franklin. Does that come into play at all here? So, again, we kind of have the 3 checklist with Chris Ballard this offseason. What would you do defensively? There is some change there, certainly. Now, I think it starts to shift to free agency and draft. Draft, his words weren't very different to me 2 weeks ago on Friday. The free agency words were different. So, again, defense, some changes. I wouldn't call it like a 180, but certainly there are changes on that side of the ball from a philosophical standpoint. We're about to enter the next phase where he talked a much different game. Free agency was the biggest difference in words. And now, again, not in the immediacy, but, probably mid to late February, we're going to start to get into, are your actions matching those words?
Yeah, we'll do a thing in February. I think we should do where we highlight a free agent like we did in the draft last year. Remember, we talked about everyone except for Leatu Latu.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We talked about every defensive player in the
By
draft.
the way, Lou did bring up Latu kind of organically yesterday of a guy that he liked in the draft. They took Amarius Mims, the big offense tackle out of Georgia, 3 picks after Latu. They took Miles Murphy, a defensive end, the year prior.
Kind of a bust.
And at this point, he's probably been that, 3 sacks in 30 games. So, again, that's another question of okay, yes, I don't think the veteran talent was very abundant, like you said, but they did draft a lot of guys early, and not a lot of them impacted. So how does that play into this offseason?
Yeah, again, I think you mentioned this earlier in the week. You could talk yourself out of it. You could talk yourself into it. I feel that way. Let's see what happens when they get some players or don't get players and they start playing some games. All right, who wins this weekend and why? We'll give our picks. We'll do it next. It's a Football Friday right here, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
Eddie White scheduled to join us from Paris coming up 9 o'clock hour. Ugly third quarter yesterday. I don't watch a lot of Spurs games. Wembanyama's just I'm in awe. I mean, there was a point even Quinn Buckner was in awe yesterday watching it, which that has to mean something when he's at a loss of words. I mean, it was both ends of the floor. It's incredible to watch. Pacers had no answer for him whatsoever. Noon tomorrow, I believe Michael Grady on the ESPN call of that one. Derek messaged me this morning, Andy, and asked me if I had gone back and watched the Notre Dame-Ohio State game.
Oh, goodness. Why would you? I mean, no offense, but you're not breaking down film. You're not Marcus Freeman.
I went back and watched the whole thing on Tuesday.
Oh, did you really?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, you were there, so when you're at a game, it's much different than, rewatching it on television. But why? Why did you lost the game? It's a heartbetter.
Great question.
It's the stages of grief, right?
Why did you do that?
I think Mark might be right. Now, when he says that, again, if you asked me to name the stages in order, I certainly couldn't name the stages in order. But, ritual probably on that end. I don't know why I did it, but I did. I watched every single play.
You didn't skip
every single play. I wanted to watch the final two plays when Jeremiah Love got blown up on the screen, and then Eli Raridan over the middle as the green Gatorade's getting stuck in the beautiful black beard of Ryan Day.
So I feel like you're on the final stage of grief because the 5 stages of grief are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance.
You think he's
Have
at
you accepted it yet?
I
are you still depressed?
Yeah, I think he's at.
Walk
he's at
me
3
through
or 4.
bargaining.
Well, if we would have done this, we would have won. If Marcus Freeman would have gone for it instead of setting Mitch Jeter out there.
Or maybe, it's not that bad. We finished second. Yeah. Marcus Freeman, this is just
he's still handsome.
A couple years on the job, and look what he's built. Look what he's built. He's still handsome. Yeah, all those things. Look at the recruiting class we have coming in. Ohio State spent $25 million. $25 million on NIL, Ryan Beard, he had to win one. You bargain with yourself all those different ways, and then you become depressed, and then you realize that next season you're, going to be favored by 2.5 against Miami on Labor Day weekend.
Your bargaining was, at least I don't have to run around the circle in a Speedo.
Boy, that would have been bad yesterday.
You would have been dead, I think.
Part of me thinks that Maddie was rooting for Ohio State. I don't want to believe that, but part of me thinks she was.
Her and your daughter have to live with that, and I guess I'm just going the women in your life. Your
I'm not going to
have to live with that.
I don't think Max Bowen's going to be the most proud son either.
No, but I think
should they have a Brutus voodoo doll or something?
Yeah, but he's he's gonna end up being like a dude. He's gonna be like, oh yeah, he'll understand it and be less embarrassed, I would imagine, than the women in your family. That's me stereotyping. But that's just what I
So you would not
believe.
have gone back and watched the game? I thought,
No.
To Mark's point, I'm
I
going to go there. Mark's my therapist, I guess. I thought it was a good coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Did I learn anything? No.
I think you'll be back to regular Kevin Bowen by Monday.
Did I get down
the
with it
weekend.
and think to myself, boy, I just wasted 2 hours of my life right there trying to fast forward through the commercials?
Google tells me bargaining's feelings of guilt that often raise questions like, if only I had done more.
Yeah.
Well, that's where you can look at, your brother and some of your other Notre Dame people and say, maybe if you guys were there, we'd be fine.
I did see Notre Dame's right guard, Rocco Spindler, visiting Kurt Signetti's bunch in the transfer portal.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How good of a player is he?
Very highly ranked recruit. I would say didn't really live up to it. Actually lost his starting job, but then Notre Dame had all those injuries, and then he got back in the lineup. Nice player. I would love him for depth, but I think Notre Dame believes that their starting 5 will, have some major NFL potential next year.
Notre Dame always has one of the great offensive lines in college football. So that's always one of the places they're good. Not even good, they're great for the most part. Well,
little issue.
You'll be back. I just need to know who Notre Dame's quarterback is next year. That's all I want to know.
I think Lloyd Carr's grandson.
So not Angeli, or is that Angeli?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see C.J. Carr beat out
Okay.
Steve Angeli. I don't know. I feel like Angeli's got the pocket presence of I don't even know what to make the analogy, but I don't know.
I've never seen either one of them play.
I get really worried when he drops back.
Oh, boy.
Let's give our picks. Coming up this weekend, 3 o'clock. This is Fox. This is the NFC title game. This is Andy's hell. That would be the Eagles and the Commanders. They split regular season meetings, these two teams. It looks like, just from a health standpoint, Quinyon Mitchell, the rookie for Philadelphia, again, a lot of people had him mocked to the Colts. It looks like he's going to give it a go. That is certainly a big injury to watch. He exited that game against the Rams due to a shoulder injury. What's this line settled at? 6?
It's at 6. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Philly's favored by 6. Your over-under's 47.5.
Jaden Daniels threw for 5 touchdowns in one of the meetings this season. Mark Dykton, where are you going with this one?
I am going to go, and I apologize to Andy, but I don't want to hear Chris Canty anymore on Monday morning brag about Jaden Daniels. I like Jaden Daniels. I don't like Chris Canty. So I'm going to take the Eagles here.
Mark really hates Chris Canty.
Well, because I hear it every time I come into the studio in the morning to get the show ready. Him and Michelle Smallman just ranting about Caleb Williams and the Bears and Jaden Daniels. I was like, shut up.
Jaden Daniels,
shut up already.
He is the apple of many people's eye in the NFL.
So anyway, for those reasons alone, I'm going to go Eagles. I think Saquon Barkley gets a couple touchdowns and all that stuff. Great story for the Commanders all year long, but I think the Eagles finally get it going and punch their ticket to the Super Bowl. I'm going to take Eagles 26, Commanders 20.
Yeah, I'm going Eagles as well. I'm going to say the Eagles win. I'm going to say the Eagles cover. The thing that's worrying,
I don't think there's many people out there taking the Eagles to cover.
Yeah, I didn't think that was the case. Even 24 hours ago, I remember thinking, boy, 6 is a lot. Washington's playing well. I just think, I think it's going to finally, I think Washington's finally going to kind of meet their end, if that makes sense. I think Philly is a different animal on both lines of scrimmage. Their defensive line's a bunch of monsters. Their offensive line's a bunch of monsters. Saquon Barkley's going to have a big game. I think the thing that worries you, if you're an Eagles fan, is the health of Jalen Hurts and the health and the play of Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts has not been next level. You saw his knee get rolled up on last week, and that was a bad injury. It looked like it was a really bad injury. So Quinyon Mitchell playing, that's a big deal. He has been a QB1 or a CB1 for them, but I don't know if it's a late cover. Perhaps it's a late cover. I just... Maybe Saquon breaks away and lays down at the 1-yard line like he did a couple weeks ago, but I think the Eagles win. I think they cover. If they lose, remember, they decided to not go and have Barkley beat that Eric Dickerson number because they wanted to save him for the postseason. Well, you save him for games like this. So if the Eagles lose, that whole what they did at the end of the year and then all the Nick Sirianni stuff, there'll be some drama. The A.J. Brown versus Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, his play falling off. So it's a real interesting game, the fallout if Philly were to lose. But I think they move on. And quite frankly, I think they punch me right in the gut on Sunday night and the Eagles win. They move on. They cover the spread.
I was thinking a different body part.
Yeah, well.
Nonetheless, curious how dual threat Hurts will be. You know, I thought that knee twisted big time in that game against the Rams. Just how effective will he be with that element? I think Saquon is too much, though. It's I love the Commander story. It's a hell of a story. I know Mark is bitching and moaning about it, but it's damn impressive. They'd be the 3rd team in NFL history to beat the 1, 2, and 3 seed if they were able to get this done. 23-20, though, Eagles. Shifting gears, it is the matchup I think everyone is waiting for. Approximately 6:30 from Arrowhead. Is Jimmy Cook going?
Oh, is he?
I don't know.
I thought he told me he was.
Oh, we need to find out.
I thought he told me he was going. Chiefs and Bills, this spread started as a pick'em. It has risen to Kansas City, 2.5?
2. Something
around there. Should we go in reverse order?
Yeah, we can do
Sure.
it. Yeah, go ahead. You pick. I mean, is anyone taking the Buffalo Bills? Go ahead, KB.
I want Hollywood. I want the Bills.
Okay. Well, I want the Bills, so you want and think the Bills
27-24. Dumb comment I'm about to make.
Okay.
I think Josh Allen's the better quarterback in 2024, 2025.
Oh, I don't think that's a hot take. I don't think that's a hot take at all. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is not an MVP in this league this season.
Kansas City has played with fire, and I get it. I'm an idiot. This is dumb. Did you learn that fire burns your hand yesterday, Kevin?
Yeah, I know this is.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I apologize up front. I should have listened to my mother growing up. And the heart is speaking here. Bills.
Yeah.
27-24.
They've lucked into a lot of wins. They had the field goal that just doinked in and all this other stuff. They've had some.
Now, the
lucky
Bills
wins.
haven't been perfect.
No.
I want to stress that. Obviously, Mark Andrews certainly helped them out. But I picked Buffalo and Philly at the start of the playoffs as my Super Bowl pick. I can't jump off that.
What was that bet? Like plus what? Do you remember? I mean,
that
that's
was plus 1,300 maybe.
Oh, man.
I need to
Save
double
that
check
money. Save that money and go to another. You'll be able to actually pay to go to one of those national championship games next year. If
I don't
want
want
to
act like I put a lot on it.
Yeah,
Let's
but
not,
I mean,
you know.
a plus 1,000, you put 10, 15, 20 bucks on it. That's
Yeah,
not too
yeah.
bad.
Kevin's getting sitting ringside at Royal Rumble
I mean,
on Saturday.
No kidding.
They'll be throwing me out there on the plywood.
So, I mean, Mark, so you're taking Buffalo?
Yeah, give me a Buffalo.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'll take Kansas City. And I'm doing the opposite. I am emotionally hedging. KB is speaking with his heart. I am emotionally hedging because I want Buffalo to win so bleeping bad in this game, but I'm not going to pick against Kansas City. The ridiculous ways that they have won these games,
It is
especially
so
against
ridiculous.
Buffalo.
And Kelsey turning back the clock last week, I'm like, oh boy. I thought he was done, or done-ish. And him having that type of game, I'm like, oh my god.
I guess just a part of me still wonders if the lack of outside wide receiver weapons catches up with Buffalo.
See, that's the thing. It's like Kansas City again. They lack the potency that they typically have had in these runs. But part of me just thinks the emotional boulder on Buffalo's back.
Mm-hmm.
Is it? I mean, I brought up the analogy before. Is it Colt Patriot like?
No, if Buffalo loses, their fans will feel like, is it ever going to happen?
Right.
And they would be right to feel that way.
Right.
I mean, Sunday night, you're going to feel that way when you drink an entire bucket of bourbon. You're going to think, are we ever going to be able to
bucket of bourbon.
I mean, you ever going to be able to beat this team? Because it's not like Mahomes. I mean, how old is Mahomes?
29.
What's he? Yeah, what's he, 30 years old? I mean, he's not going anywhere.
He's never played a season where he hasn't gotten the AFC Championship.
The guy's going to be elite for at least the next 6, 7, 8 years.
Said it to you guys earlier. The 7 straight AFC title games to start a career, it's a Ripken DiMaggio stat. That's
agree.
what Mahomes has done. I mean, no one's going to do. I mean,
it's ridiculous
no
to
one's
think about.
Do that.
No, it's ridiculous to think about. It just makes no sense, and they can win different ways. And I think Spagnuolo is a Hall of Famer, defensive mind, I think he is. So, so there are our picks. Good luck, everybody. Have fun betting those. Eddie White going to join us in 10 minutes live from Paris.
I want to make sure I don't misspeak. So, Andy Sweeney, please correct me. You said our next guest looked hot in his beret across the pond?
I don't think I said that. I thought he looked fantastic.
Fantastic.
I thought he looked natural. Like he could wear a
I'll
beret.
say it.
Yeah, he could look.
Eddie White looked hot in his beret.
I thought he looked great.
I'll
Like
say it.
if he wore it in like caramel, you'd say, "Man, that guy, I like what he's doing."
Eddie White, are you rocking the beret right now?
No, not right now. I'm wearing a Pacers hat. But bonjour, je m'appelle Eddie. And listen, let me tell you, Kevin, your partner there knows his stuff. Because, yes, we had an opening night gala, and they wanted me to, not MC, but go around and interview people. And I thought, okay, you know me, I like to do crazy things. So I got as soon as I got here, I bought a beret. I put a Pacers logo on it, and I went around and interviewed people. And when the Pacemates say that you look really good in that, and when Andy says you look really good in that, that tells me that I hit a grand slam. When you get the Pacemates and Andy, and they both say, "Hey, you look good. You pull that off." It's kind of like a Bruce Arians Euro look. It may be my new deal. I'm just telling you.
I like that. When I think of attractiveness and fashion, I think of the Pacemates and Andy Sweeney.
Yeah, that's right. We're right next to each other. Well, Eddie, can I ask you this? So I knew some people that went out and they went to like Montana. You know, they drove out west and they stopped somewhere and they went in and there's this place. It was infamous for cowboy hats, and the cowboy. And they got fitted for a cowboy hat. And these salespeople and these people that own this place, Eddie, they put a lot of time and effort, and this was a very pricey cowboy hat. How is the beret buying experience there in Paris? Is it like buying an expensive pair of shoes, or is it like you go to Lids and you buy a Pacers hat? How is it?
If there's anything, think of the lowest thing you could do. It's one of those shops on the street for like €7. And they have them in all colors. And in fact, my wife got a gold one to wear, as some other people did to the game last night. And I just got a navy one. So yeah, it was not highfalutin. Let's put it that way. It was just down and dirty. Now Miles Turner, he probably spends substantially more dollars on his berets than me. He's probably the one getting them fitted and whatever. But no, I just went and got one off the street that was navy and put a logo on it.
He looks outstanding. Of course, you know that voice, the world's greatest postgame show, Eddie White, joining us here. We have to unfortunately get to yesterday and that third quarter. But let's start a little bit more off the floor, Eddie. The greatest thing, the best sightseeing, food-wise, however you want to take it. What have you done over there?
Well, first of all, I would tell people that was thinking about coming here, you should come here. The food is fantastic. The people are great. The city is huge. It seems like every building is 7,000 years old, and they're all like perfectly conditioned. It's amazing. In America, we build something in 20 years, we knock it down. Here, whether it's the Notre Dame Cathedral or it's the Louvre or it's just every castle or building you may run into, it's exceptional. It's amazing. But we've had this thing, which is really cool. Like Joey Graziano, who's been a regular on you guys' show, and you know it, Joey, from the NBA, and he did all these special events, and now he's with the Pacers.
Great dude.
He had an idea to do a Pacers scavenger hunt every day for the people here in France. And it's on the social media, and it's basically they give you a very small clue the day before, and then the clue that really helps you comes at 10 a.m. And then the first person who goes to this location gets 2 tickets to the game. And then anybody else that shows up, we give them some Pacers garb and memorabilia and stuff like that. So, the first day the guy showed up, I think, 38 minutes after the 10 o'clock clue was sent out. The next day, the guy, and that day we did it at a place called the Indiana Cafe. There are 25 Indiana cafes in Paris. Let me repeat that. There are 25 cafes called Indiana Cafe in Paris. We did it the second day there, and the guy was there at 10:18, 18 minutes after. Yesterday, the guy was there before the 10 o'clock clue was dropped. So he was a genius to figure out. So you think, well, it can't get crazier than that. Well, today we did it at the Salesforce Paris office. Now, the Salesforce Paris office is as close to the Eiffel Tower as Prime 47 is to Gamebridge Fieldhouse. So if you ever work for Salesforce in Paris, you're going to look out your window and see the Eiffel Tower right there. So that was the location today. So the small clue went out last night. So the big one will go out at 10 o'clock today. Well, we get a call There are two guys in front of Salesforce Paris this morning, Paris time, at 4:45 a.m.
Wow.
Two guys from Paris who love the Pacers. They're at 4:45 a.m. So we show up at 9, and then again the clue's going to drop at 10, and so we're smoozing. Immediately we said, listen, you get here at 4:45 a.m. You got the tickets, but then we're going to have a competition for some other. So the guy second in line got there at 7. He figured it out. Where do you hear this one? He flew in from Italy. He's a Pacer fan who lives in Italy, flew to Paris trying to get tickets. I said, why do you love the Pacers? He goes, I fell in love with Pacers with, you like the accent? I fell in love with Pacers with Dale Davis. Dale Davis, my favorite player.
Let's
Now, you
go.
tell
I
me,
like that.
If you have Italian guy who loves Dale Davis, who flew to Paris to see the Pacers on your bingo card, you are the all-time bingo winner. And then, like 8th or 9th in a row, is a lady and her 11-year-old son from Warren Township. It was the kid's dream to go to Paris to see the Pacers, and they flew from Indianapolis trying to get tickets to go to the game. And, of course, Kevin, you know our organization well. Andy, you're getting to know our organization. You know what we're about. Joey Graziano pulled 2 tickets out of his back pocket and gave it to that lady and the son. So
Wow.
it's been
Unbelievable.
incredible.
Wow.
Wherever you walk around, whether it's a waiter or something, I wear my Pacers garb, and the guy goes, "Oh, Reggie Miller," and then the best was the guy who showed up 18 minutes after the clue was dropped the other day. I said, "Why do you love the Pacers?" He goes, "I love Pacers for 10 years." I go, "Get that?" I said, "Wait, where were you born?" He goes, "Here. I'm here in France." Yeah. I said, "Where'd you grow up?" He goes, "Here." I said, "So why do you love the Pacers for 10 years?" He goes, "Lance Stevenson."
Oh my gosh.
I love
He
that.
should break down the
You're
team
damn
huddle
right.
before the game starts
That's
tomorrow.
fantastic.
Gosh,
It's
those are
incredible.
excellent.
We have a lot of sponsors and stuff like that on the trip, but it's amazing to think sometimes, you guys doing the show there, we got people listening from Carmel to Greenwood, and they love the Colts, they love the Pacers, whatever, but we're over here in frickin' Paris. I mean, there's the frickin' Eiffel Tower, there's the frickin' Louvre, there's the Notre Dame Cathedral, which looks great, by the way. Not as nice as the Sacred Heart Basilica in South Bend, Kevin. But these people they know the frickin' Pacers. It's unbelievable.
We'll get to the game in a second, but wow, that's some good stuff. And Eddie White with us on the Payless Liquors hotline, following your Twitter and some others. There's been some good social media follows over the last week or so. Last one before we talk about what actually happened in the game. Did you know, or who knew in the traveling party or the team, that Obi Toppin was going to propose to his girlfriend? Anybody?
No one.
Wow.
No one.
Wow.
And I saw him the night he did. He was coming back late to the hotel. I said to him, hey, Paris is the Dayton, Ohio of Europe. I mean, you could have done this in Dayton. I mean, Dayton's a very romantic city. But it was so
Tim's
special.
that bar.
He
They could do it there.
Yeah, exactly. He was beaming. He was, for those of us who've done that, you guys have done it, I've done it. It's a special time for the wife, really, and it's a special time for us because all of our years of looking, we finally found someone who said yes. That goes for the three of us on this call.
Amen.
But Obi was elated, and his soon-to-be wife was elated, and it was and then I found out that one of our Pacers employees, we had a ton of employees who flew over yesterday on their own dime to see the games and be a part of it. One of our people in marketing also got engaged here. So, I mean, now I'm going to digress. You know me, Kevin. You know me a long time. Andy, this is going to fill in the blanks. My engagement came at the Knights of Columbus on Keystone Avenue. They had a bingo there for the Little Sisters of the Poor. That's where I got engaged. I swear to God.
Gosh, that explains everything.
That's great.
I was at the Knights
Yes,
of Columbus
it
a
does.
couple weeks ago, by the way, Eddie White. Excellent stop, a Northside staple, to say the least. The great Eddie White, Pacers, of course, the greatest post-game show, Pacers Overtime host. You hear him on these very airwaves. All right, game-wise, it was certainly an ugly third quarter. We'll see how they bounce back tomorrow. What do you think of the atmosphere? You couldn't really – we were a little – it kind of felt a little COVID-y. Honestly, Eddie, just as I break my mic here.
The microphone just fell. Oh, boy.
Falling apart this
We
morning.
are falling apart this morning,
From
Eddie.
a broadcast standpoint, Eddie, it was a little, I don't know, just subdued from a crowd. Mike, they're doing the game over here in St. Louis. So what'd you make of the atmosphere yesterday inside of the arena?
It's really interesting when you come over here. Like, we went to the Paris Saint-Germain, Manchester, I think it was City. I don't know who they played. Champions League football game the other night, and it was as pageantry and drama-filled and fan-invested as anything I've ever seen. They sing through the whole game. They chant through the whole game. The visiting team, they put them in a certain corner with security around them and these big, tall plexiglass things. So, like, the visiting fans cannot interact because I guess they'll kill each other. And that atmosphere was incredible. So now you have basketball, and they react to a dunk. But like when a guy's bringing the ball up court, usually at Gamebridge, people are going bananas. It's silence. We're sitting about 8 rows behind the Pacer bench. I can hear Lloyd. I can hear any of the coaches, any of the players chatting. You can hear the dribble. It's just weird. But when something happens, then they react. And it's so funny to see the French audience react or non-react to Boomer. I don't think they know what Boomer was or is. They were a little freaked out by Boomer. They like the Pacemates. Ooh, they love the Pacemates. And then when we had our guys that come out in the third quarter do the dunking and all that stuff, that entertained them. They liked that. But again, they only reacted when the dunk was completed. So they sit there and watch, and when they see something they like, they react. But it's definitely not an American audience.
Yeah, it's funny. Now you say that, I felt like there was no like background music. We're used to whatever the
None.
IndyCar theme or things like that, and you heard none of that.
Yeah, none. It was. Last night was our home game. Tomorrow night will be San Antonio's. So we had all the what you'd experience at Gamebridge, and obviously the people from Indiana got it, but I think most of the people there obviously are from. Well, I was going to say France, but I guess it's like 50 countries. People from 50 countries bought tickets. So you had people from all over the world were at this game, and they're just watching and waiting for something to happen as opposed to cheering for one team against the other.
He'll be down the catwalk in a Paris fashion show starting tonight with a beret on. He is the one, the only Eduardo Blanco. Eddie White, thank you for the time. Safe travels home. Make sure the beret is looking pristine when you get back in Indy.
If we learned anything this morning, which I knew this, is that Andy is certainly the more expert when it comes to fashion than one KB, who, of course, didn't learn anything at Cathedral. So very good. Thank you, Andy. And Andy, you are now in a class with the Pacemates. You are at the top of the class. Kevin is at the bottom.
Eddie White right there on the Payless Liquors hotline.
That's good stuff.
He's one of a kind.
It's either you do the Miles Turner where he probably spent thousands on a beret, or you do what Eddie did. He picks one like an I Love New York shirt off the side of the street on 38th
I had no
Street.
idea that's what it was like.
I'm sure it's just like any other city, You got peddlers down there. You can buy all sorts of fake stuff. Have you ever been to Washington, D.C. and bought some Folkleys? I did that when our 8th grade trip went there.
Oh, yeah.
Bought a bunch of Folkleys. They look like Oakleys, and they broke in, 3.5 days.
Yeah, I was never a huge sunglasses guy. I remember I had like a one of those watches that I felt like looked like a Rolex, and I thought I was on top of the world for a while.
I do like that. Now I'm looking at the fits that the guys had. Miles Turner had the shirtless look with some sort of wrap around him. I assume you've seen all this. And then Tyrese almost looks like a prince, if you will. That's what he's wearing. And then it's always funny, the guys, and no offense to them, that haven't got the contract yet that these other guys have got.
Yeah, Johnny Furphy's wearing Kansas clothes is what you're saying?
Johnny Furphy's wearing Nike sweats.
Yeah. Obi's like, how much I spent on that engagement ring? I'm going to wear my Dayton High Flyer shirt here.
Oh, goodness. I'm blanking. I saw Matherin's got like the wrap around the neck, but yeah, Ben Shepherd has jeans on.
I will say this. One of the things that I was blown away by, it honestly might have been the biggest Pacers highlight from yesterday, which isn't necessarily a ringing endorsement by any means. I'm watching the post-game press conference. The effortless nature of Benedict Mathurin and Pascal Siakam to answer one question in English and then the next question in French is amazing to me.
Oh, listen, I'm with you, brother. Yeah, you're spot on.
I can barely talk in English.
No, we can't talk in English, and they can nail a couple different languages. I know, man. We're stupid here. Both of us should be able to speak another language. We can't do anything.
And I'm pretty sure, I thought Mathurin can speak one more. Hell, he wasn't a lot of his high school time spent in Mexico, so I would assume, Spanish he would. No, coming up on Tuesday, by the way, looking forward to that show. We'll obviously have Rick Carlisle on at 8. He will recap everything Paris-wise. Will Buxton, the new IndyCar play-by-play voice for Fox. I knew a little bit about Will prior to this, and honestly, Andy, he really, I feel like, grew in fame on Drive to Survive. If you watch Drive to Survive, the F1 Netflix series. Will had a very prominent role. When I mentioned that he was coming on the show yesterday, several people reached out. They're like, cannot wait to hear him. Like, he is a huge voice, I think, when it comes to racing. Never been to the Indianapolis 500.
That's surprising. I mean, it's surprising, obviously. It's shocking.
And, like, his comments about just how nervous he is before broadcast and how much he can't wait for that. I think it was really cool to kind of hear the genuine interest. So he will take over for Lee Diffie as, again, NBC to Fox now. And then Bernard Pollard.
He'll be calling us from England, by the way.
Yes.
Another international call.
7:30, right? He's going to join us early coming up on Tuesday as he will be across the pond. And then Bernard Pollard, former Purdue safety. He was coached by Lou Anarumo at Purdue, so a while back there. We'll talk with the hard-hitting safety Bernard Pollard coming up on Tuesday as well.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him how many fines he would have in the NFL if he played in the NFL. If he played in the NFL in 2025, he'd be fined out the wazoo. Speaking of Paris, just quickly, did you see that Netflix is going to have a documentary on Team USA winning gold over there, the men's side?
Yeah,
I don't
I'm
think
looking forward to that.
Yeah, I don't think it's the men's and women's team. Both were very good games. It wasn't like they, just went and they won by 40. But, the women had a close game. And the men, I mean, we obviously remember what that crowd was like. Everyone rooting for the home team there. And, us having like Carmelo Anthony and a couple different dignitaries and former NBA guys that were courtside as Steph Curry, pretty much became the prince of the United States, at least for now, right? I mean, you remember him in those threes?
Oh, my gosh,
we had chills, didn't we?
Unbelievable.
Didn't both of us walk in here the next day and said that we got chills the way that game ended?
I was in absolute awe watching what Steph Curry did in that gold medal game. Again, this is the arena that the bronze and the gold, those games were played in. And I said this to kind of lead off the show. What blows me away about Wembanyama, obviously, like, you watch the game itself and you're like, he's pulling up from 29 feet and then seemingly every time a Pacers player drives, he blocks a shot. Like, I felt like watching TJ McConnell drive on him was like the Muggsy Bogues and George Mirasan picture that you see out there. But the fact that Wembanyama, I would assume yesterday was one of the most anticipated games of his career. I mean, he plays in the States, obviously, all the hype around him going back to his home country. You throw in the gold medal game. Like, he was outstanding in that gold medal game. And yesterday, I mean, he just has a ho-hum, 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks, and he checks out with 5 minutes to go.
He's ridiculous.
I mean,
he's an alien.
To me, it's one thing. I mean, it's one thing to put up those numbers on a Tuesday night when the, insert team, when the Trailblazers are in town. But to go back to your home country and do that, boy, he was outstanding. For the Pacers, the bench was terrible, Turner was terrible, and they ran out of the gym in that third quarter.
Paul Cosaro going to join us coming up in about 12 or 13 minutes. Before we get to a check down, can I ask you guys what I should do?
You got a parking ticket.
All right, so last weekend the in-laws were in town. And so me and the wife, me and Nikki went out. We went just a few different places. It wasn't a wild and crazy night, staying out to 2 a.m. or anything like that. But, we knew some people.
Gosh, I can't tell you last time I stayed out to 2 a.m.
Well, that's a great point. You two with kids are not the ones to talk to about staying out to 3 a.m.
I think I'd be hung over till Easter if I stayed out till 2 a.m.
I'd be just waking up and making coffee. So, so we go out and we go down on Mass Avenue. And I have ran into great fortune just driving around. I've been able to get one of those spots. And if you know anything, until this was Friday night. So Friday at 7 or maybe 8, 9 o'clock is when they officially stop charging you to park down there.
Turn the meters,
yeah,
right?
They turn
the best time of the day.
They turn the meters off. And so what do? You pull into a spot. It's a couple dollars an hour. It's not a big deal. So you have, I'm sure you guys have the Park mobile app. It's that green app that I'm sure you guys have this. Okay, it's all over the city, and I actually like the app. It's right. It goes right to my Apple Pay. It's boom. It's one click. It's easy. It's simple. So I pull up the app, and it searches for the zone to where you are. Now this is my fault because we were running behind, but I searched the zone, and it immediately came up, and it said Indianapolis, Indiana, and I clicked it. It was the wrong zone. So in other words, we parked at, 1528, and it was actually, for some reason, it pinged me at zone 2921. But I paid for a couple hours, so I spent the $3-4, and I actually paid. We get back to the car, and understandably, the parking attendant there didn't see it that way, and so we got a $20 ticket. It's only $20. My wife was acting like it's a big deal. Oh, it's $20. Like, I'll pay for it. You act like we just got fined for like we're Jimmy Butler who just lost 7 games of a game check. Okay, I mean it's $20.
Equating $20 is probably the same as equating Jimmy Butler losing a game check with how much money he's made in his life.
Well, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, settle
can't
down.
you just produce the receipt and say honest mistake?
Well, so that's what I did.
I mean, come on, this shouldn't be hard.
I have the timestamps of where I took a screenshot of me paying at the wrong zone, okay? And I took a picture of where we were parked there on Mass Avenue. Is this because, listen, I've done this in Louisville and places in southern Indiana. This is a 99.9% conviction rate. Like, I'm not winning this battle. Is this worth? Do I just send the $20
I think you're winning
in?
this. This
You
to
think
me seems like a layup.
You think I got? Settle down on the layup.
Yeah,
so you think I got it? So KB really thinks I have a chance. Mark,
if you
what do you
paid
think?
them, I mean, it's an honest mistake. You typed in the wrong number. Money's money. Park Mobile still got it.
Yeah, I would at least try. There's no harm in
Okay.
trying. The worst thing they say is, tough blank. Give us $20.
Give us $20.
But at least you could try. Like, listen, honest mistake.
I was expecting a little more of a dire situation.
I'm sorry.
I'm
There's no-
clearly optimistic.
I
on
mean,
this one.
we're in a technological world. Mistakes happen. I think computers aren't always perfect. I think
I mean,
we're
it's not like
perfect.
me getting towed.
Yeah, that's true.
Next to Conrad.
Kevin's was more egregious because Kevin knew he was in the wrong. You didn't.
I know someone for.
It was an honest mistake.
Here I am trying to save the show, and all of a sudden I get 100 and how much was it? 100.
Oh God, 107.
No.
It's cash only.
I was
too.
worried when I left you
Well, it was
at the
it's
tow
cash.
yard.
It's cash
No,
only at those places, isn't it?
I think I was able to do my credit card.
Oh,
if I
were
remember
you?
correctly.
I don't know why I thought that. I know someone when Louisville lost to Michigan at Gamebridge, they just parked somewhere totally illegal and just left their car there, and they came out the next morning and it was towed, and it was not $175. It was like $275.
God.
They upped it a little bit more for the big weekend.
The great Paul Casaro, the Jags have had a very nice season. Certainly, when you compare it to recent years, they're going to rock some throwbacks coming up tomorrow. He's going to join us in a few. Before that, let's check it down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Corteva Coliseum, March 10th and 11th.
Yeah, we just talked to Eddie White there. Obviously, not a good night last night for the Spurs. 140-110, that's your final. Again, a 3-point game at halftime, and then that third quarter, just a disaster. San Antonio winning the third quarter 45-23. We talked about it. Wemby, fantastic. He had 30 points, 11 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks in the win. Pretty crazy. Good for the Pacers. Benedict Mathurin, 11-14 from the field. He had 24 in the loss. They'll play that final game over in Paris. That's tomorrow. Noon, ESPN, 11:30, our coverage on the Fan.
All right, a couple of big home games in the Big Ten this weekend here locally. Tonight in Mackey, Purdue and Michigan, 2 ranked teams battling. Very important for the Boilermakers to control home floor after what happened on Tuesday. They're currently looking up at Michigan. Michigan's got 1 loss in the standings. Purdue has 2 in the Big Ten. The Boilers a 3.5-point favorite. 8 o'clock tonight, Fox. This will be Gus Johnson and company. DePaul and Chris Holtman in Hinkle tomorrow at 4. And again, the other Big Ten home game, Indiana's got Maryland at noon. That's CBS coming up on Sunday. Maryland with a very impressive victory last night at Illinois, 91-69 in that one.
Final thing for me, NFL over the weekend. We've talked a lot about it. Eagles Commanders, 3 o'clock. Philly favored by 6 in that game.
Can you live stream yourself watching that game? I think a lot of people will be interested.
It's going to gut me. Chiefs Bills, that's coming up 6:30 on Sunday. That's your CBS game. Chiefs favored by 2. You got anything else?
No, that's pretty much it on my end.
NBA All-Stars reserves are announced next week, right? I know we've talked a little
we'll
bit
see
about that.
Pascal Siakam, Tyrese Halliburton, if they'll make the team.
Yeah, I'm not sure how confident I am on that. We shall see. Big weekend for him, and the him is Paul Casaro. He joins us next.
a great-looking jersey and a basketball team that certainly is moving in the right direction, and that would be over at the Jungle coming up 2 o'clock. IU Indy, led by first-year head coach Paul Cassaro, just to keep everybody updated on kind of where the program was at before Paul's arrival. Andy, the 3 previous seasons, they won 3, 5, and 6 games apiece. They've
Yikes.
already won 7, and we aren't even in February yet. Have already eclipsed the Horizon League win total as well, and this makes you and I happy. They swept Gottlieb. They dusted Douglas.
You're damn right.
Remember
they
how
did.
cocky he was with us back at the Horizon League Media Day?
He thought they were going to be really good. I know Paul doesn't want to hear us have that conversation while he's on hold, but I do remember he was a little cocky, obviously. Speaking of, their 3-point, just looking at KenPom, and I know, Coach will confirm all this. I mean, their 3-point percentage this year from last year has went up, I think, like 312 teams in the KenPom. Like, it was 362 last year, and it's like 52.
Yeah, Rakestraw was
52 right
on
now.
with us earlier and said it'll be a 3-point barrage coming up Saturday inside the Jungle, and he is, again, the first-year head coach of the IU Indy Jaguars, Paul Cassaro, with us here. Coach, good morning. Congrats on the road win.
Thank you, guys. Good to talk to you.
You guys do let it fly from behind the arc. Andy just threw those numbers out there. How much was that a concerted effort this year in trying to retool that roster?
Well, we did want to improve the 3-point shooting. When I was interviewing for the job, I recognized that, last year there were 362 Division I teams, and there are 364 this year. 2 teams transitioned from Division II to Division I, but I believe last year's team was 360th out of 362 in 3-point shooting. They averaged 3.5 makes a game from 3 at a clip of 24%, which is, not great by any means. I made a concerted effort to, I told them we're going to improve that. You recruited better shooting, and didn't know exactly what exactly our makes and percentages was going to be. My goal is always at a minimum to make 8 a game at a clip of 35% or higher. We're well better than that. We've exceeded my expectations from a minimum standpoint. Part of that is we've had to take more. We've had some injuries. Our 7-footers only played 6 games this year. So, we haven't had our big. We haven't been able to play as inside out as I would have liked. So we've had to change our style from a schematic standpoint. But, that's what you do. You adapt and figure it out, and we have shot the ball well.
Coach, I'm with the Colts and with the Pacers and all these different teams, we talk about culture, right? You talk about culture, and when a new coach comes in like yourself, changing the culture, getting some improving the players that are there, getting some new players. How close are you for this program being the culture that you want it to be?
Yeah, I think the culture is there. That's what you do first. You have to establish culture before you establish winning and, the record to transpire. If you don't have culture, you don't have anything. And, from day one when I got the job, when you hire a staff, that's what you're doing. You're starting your culture. When you start bringing in the right types of players, you're establishing culture. When you spend time together in the summer, you're establishing culture. And, we've established our culture, and in our first semester here, just to give you an example, we want to win in everything. And, in our first semester here, we got a 3.36 team GPA, and it's a program record. In IU Indy, IUPUI history, it's the highest semester team GPA in program history. And that was achieved in this team's first semester ever, and no one here has ever wore a Jaguar uniform ever before. We kind of tore it down and built it back up from scratch. So if that's not establishing culture, I don't know what is. And we've gone through some tough times this year. On the court, we've had a lot of really close games. That seven game win record, we feel like could easily be 12 or 13. And rather than hang our head and let that, separate us. It's grown us stronger and allowed us to win a couple games over the last couple weeks. And, we just keep getting better and better from game to game. So you don't have any of that stuff without culture. And I think the wins and the record, that's just going to come because of it.
That is the voice of Paul Casaro, certainly Southside's finest, and he is the head coach at IU Indy here. Very nice first season for the Jags. You mentioned a lot of close games. One of those close ones that you weren't able to complete that comeback was up in Fort Wayne earlier this year. You'll get the rematch with them coming up on Saturday. They are certainly a team threatening at the top of the Horizon League. Obviously, should be a great atmosphere. Alumni weekend, I know your winter homecoming. The Metros jerseys, little throwback action. What stands out to you from that first matchup, and what do you guys need to do to get it done on Saturday?
We need to protect the ball better. We had 19 turnovers in that first game. Gave up 20 points off our turnovers, and we lost by 2. And we had a shot at the buzzer to tie. We took it the length of the court. Jarvis Walker, our second leading scorer, great player, actually a Purdue Fort Wayne transfer. Who was with me at, transferred from Purdue Fort Wayne to me at University of Indianapolis, and then came with me here to IU Indy. Took it the length of the court and had a great look at the rim, and it seemed like it sat on the rim for almost an eternity before then it dropped. I'll take him with that look 100 more times, and to send it into overtime. So if we just take care of the ball a little bit better, I feel like we win that game. So. That's the name of the game. We got to take care of the ball a little bit better, and we have to defend the arc. They really, really shoot it. You talked about us shooting the ball well. They shoot it every bit as good as we do. So we need to defend the arc on the defensive end, and then we need to value the basketball and take care of the ball on the offensive end. 2
small items before we let you go, Coach. The Metros jerseys, awesome look. I mean, these look like Cleveland Cavaliers City jerseys to me. This is a crisp look. I'm a big fan. Coach Lovell, I love these jerseys.
Yeah, they're awesome. Credit to our administration, our athletic director, Luke Basso, and his team, Lauren Gronke and Ed Holdaway, spent a lot of time with the design on these and, the publicity around with it. And we think it's great. And our guys are fired up to display them, and we're very excited about it.
Last thing, and I'm not trying to take any money out of your pocket, but boy, I thought that was a BS call a few weeks ago when you got the old heave-ho. I was glad that you stood up for your bunch. I'm hoping Luke patted you on the back for that one. I thought that was a smart move right there. You don't need to say anything more. I'm not trying to take any money out of that pocket of yours.
Said the magic word.
But you know what? I was nodding my head at that video.
I appreciate the comments. I do have to say one thing, though. I got a group of VIPs that knew I was going to be on the radio today, season ticket holders that wanted me to give them a shout-out.
Ooh.
Rumor has it that our season ticket holders in the corner of the court, that second half that in the Horizon League, that visiting teams have the toughest corner 3 in the league. With that group, and I just want to give them a shout out. We appreciate their efforts.
Look at that!
Oh, that's a great stat.
Now that's some analytics right there.
I was about to say, come on, that's diving. That's a deeper dive than KenPom.com. That's good stuff.
Boy, that is excellent. Okay, so shout out to the VIPs. Corner 3, second half. The Mastodons aren't throwing one in the ocean at all. Mark just retweeted those Metros jerseys from our show account.
It's an intimidating group, and we appreciate the reference.
I love it. I love when the jungle's rocking. It will be tomorrow afternoon. Coach, great stuff so far this season. Certainly keep it up here as you guys get closer to conference play, and congrats on the success so far.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys. Always great talking to you.
That is the great Paul Casaro right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Mark just retweeted these jerseys.
Oh, they're sweet. You can get shirts. I
those
like
are
them.
Nice.
Oh yeah, those are awesome. You can get
don't
shirts.
Those look like Cavs kind of city jerseys?
Yeah, I see what you're meaning. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I like them. Those are good. Listen, I understand why they don't do throwbacks. Like, I like the original uniforms in so many different ways better than almost anything we have now. But I'm not a jersey snob, but those are nice.
I said to you
get one of those shirts.
Yesterday we had a meeting with our boss. He's a big Broncos guy, and he's got the old school blue Broncos helmet.
Oh, yeah.
I was saying how much I love that. I know you've mentioned before, you as much as you probably hate to say it, you like the Eagles throwbacks. I like the Giants throwback.
Yeah, the Giants are great. The Eagles are great. The who am I thinking of? Like the old school Jacksonville
the powder
ones?
blue Chargers.
Oh, the Chargers are great.
Gets me as
elite.
excited as Mark Dykton when the ring gets set up for Royal Rumble.
Oh, I just want to sit in Lucas Oil Stadium and watch him put it together.
Well,
Be complete
Mark,
perv.
you
Mark's
need-
throwing plywood down to the ground.
Mark,
You guys need help tightening those ropes?
I know McAfee will obviously be all over the place. McAfee.
Well, he'll be on the
McAfee,
call.
Halliburton, Dykton. Those should be the stunt
That's what
devils.
I'm saying. I don't like that you're not just being ushered to the front of the line here. I mean, you are the radio wrestling guy. I mean, does anyone else here like wrestling? I mean, I can see Jake laughs at it. Jimmy's a no. And
No
if
chance.
if Jimmy did, he would like the best wrestler, not the underdog
I
story.
like that John Cena fellow.
I like that John Cena guy. I can see JMV. He's moved past that, obviously. Does James, his producer, does he like
don't know.
wrestling? I know he likes.
I think Mark might be on an island here.
Mark,
Now,
you're basically by yourself here.
5 o'clock Pacers tip Saturday. Royal Rumble's what, 8? 7?
Yeah,
I
but
think it's
downtown's-
7 since it's a
So
longer
does
show.
Halliburton go straight
Yes.
from
Yeah.
Gamebridge
He will
over?
100% be.
Yeah.
I will be shocked if he's not there.
He will have
actually.
a VIP van that will usher him there. He'll do his media. He'll shower. He'll put on his Gucci or whatever he's gonna wear that day, whatever outfit. That
He
costs
might be.
10 grand.
He might be a surprise entrant in the Rumble.
Oh, he
I,
has
I
to.
would assume. I guess. I hope
he's
got a
done
good
it. He's
game
been on
next
there. He's
Saturday.
been on WWE before. He's
Right.
yelling
I mean, we
at
saw the
Jalen
Brunson thing. Yeah. Didn't he call out Magic fans?
Yeah, he said Magic fans are soft.
Now, Mike Tyson used to be. These are the types of questions we need to pose or teach Kevin Bowen. So, Mike Tyson at one point, was supposed to be an official for one, and he was an official, was he
yes.
not? But
Shawn Michaels and
Really?
Stone Cold Steve Austin.
which
I didn't know that.
Which group did he end up joining? Do you have any idea? Mike Tyson infamously joined a group in the WWF. Do you have
Yeah.
any idea who this
I'm
was?
a little nervous
Okay.
answering Mike Tyson groups that he could have joined here.
Did you do
so-
any crotch chops in like high school or anything like that? Was the-
Generation X.
the DX crotch
Got it.
chop.
Okay. Yeah. I have heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
But you never, like in middle school, Mark, the crotch chop was like teachers
Celebrating
were
a touchdown
like,
during recess.
Like teachers were like enough.
Teachers back then
enough.
between the DX crotch chop, the NWO Wolfpack salute, and South Park being like in its infancy.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
teachers were just like, this is pure hell. There's crotch chops. There's Wolfpack signs. There's Cartman sayings going left and right.
A lot of
Who's
Cartman.
this Mr. Hanky guy?
Yeah. I did not talk to a girl in middle school, in case you were wondering.
Shocking.
Yeah, shocking development. Should be fun though. Should be fun.
It'll be fun. I can't wait.
Freebie Friday. You guys ready to do it?
Let's do it.
Has Scotty sent it yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, he sent it.
And
Okay. Is
it's
it
kind of
stupid?
BS.
Oh, so
As
it's
I scroll
BS.
through it.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I
I'm
can't
look-
see it because my computer died.
But please call Jiffy Lube Oil Change Freebie Friday.
I'm looking at the answer to number 2, and I've never heard of a couple of those things on there. So, 239-1070, 317-239-1070. Free oil change. It's a Freebie Friday on the Fan. guy of that ownership group, and I would imagine, if he's going to make $4.5 million to be the OC, I would imagine Liam Cohen's getting paid to go to Jacksonville.
I mean, I laugh at this. If you'd have told me before this head coaching cycle started to develop that we would have a candidate that had the clout to get a GM fired 3 weeks into a search, dangle a leverage play to be a highest paid coordinator in the NFL, and then get to hire a GM himself.
Right.
Liam Cohen wouldn't have been on the first 5 or 10 names I would have gone with.
It's a great development. Besides Ben Johnson, Liam Cohen had the most pull in this coaching search besides Ben Johnson, and that's crazy.
You could make the argument even more than Ben Johnson.
Well, I think Jacksonville was desperate.
I know, but the fact that he can get a GM fired and now handpick the new – I mean, theoretically, he's above the new GM, right? If you look at it in that light.
Listen, I look at it in that light.
I hired you.
Yes. Yeah.
You didn't hire me.
Yeah, I know.
Why?
I don't know. There's two funny things about it. Number one, what does that mean for Jacksonville? Like, how much better are they going to be? How much more competent, or is this kind of a bust move? And then the second thing is, if, and we'll see in the coming days if this ever comes out, if Ben Johnson would have actually accepted a job in Jacksonville first, that would have been a juicy story for the AFC South. And quite frankly, that would have been a bad thing for the Colts. Now, the Colts usually, they've been losing to Jacksonville. Doesn't matter who the coach is. But, I think more of Ben Johnson than I do Liam Cohen.
All right, let's do our pop quiz here on a freebie Friday.
Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the pop quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
All right, Jiffy Lube oil change, of course, coming your way on this Friday. I think the pop quiz stinks. I think it's brutal. I don't have a lot of faith in someone doing well on it, but nonetheless.
What a way to sell it.
We'll test intelligence here.
Well, Scotty either does the really easy on Friday because he's mailing it in because someone's going to get the oil change anyway, or he makes it really, really difficult to embarrass them and they still get the oil change. It's one or the other, really.
I know. I think it's the latter. Give us a number.
Let's go number 3 today, Mark.
Well, I've had to write these names down because our phone system went down as long as my computer did too. So this is fun. We're going to play caller roulette. I believe this is Jacob. I could be wrong.
Jacob, is that you?
Yeah, that's me.
Hey, Jacob, how you doing, man?
I'm nervous now with the way you introduced it, but I'm doing well today.
Well, I don't know. I mean, one of the answers, Jacob, just always guess when that person is one of the answers. He seemingly has every record from an NBA sense, so you're probably a safe bet there. But, now that I've talked with you, I don't know. I feel like I'm not giving you enough credit for your intelligence.
The over-under's 2.5, Jacob. That's it. I'm
and
saying
it's a
2.5.
Friday.
Yeah,
It's a Friday.
You get the oil change regardless.
So I'm counting on an over.
Jacob, you got any big plans for the weekend?
Not a whole lot, man. Just hanging out with my daughter and trying to stay warm,
Amen to that. Andy Sweeney will toss number 1 your way.
All right, Wemby scored 30 points. He grabbed 11 rebounds as the Spurs pounded the Pacers by 30 yesterday in Paris. The question is, who led the Pacers in scoring yesterday? Was it Tyrese Halliburton, Benedict Mathurin, Pascal Siakam, or Miles Turner?
Oh, man. I want to say Siakam, but if you give me another chance, I'll say Mathurin.
Well, Jacob, you know what you're doing here. This isn't your first rodeo. We'll go with that second one. Spurs, one of 4 former ABA teams to merge with the NBA in 1976. What was the Spurs franchise known as when the ABA was formed in 1967? Was it the Spurs, the Anaheim Amigos, the Dallas Chaparrals, or the franchise did not exist in 67?
Let's go with did not exist.
I mean, that's, it's kind of, it's kind of like a little
What are you
middle
gonna do?
finger. I mean, usually throws that on there, and,
I know he does.
Jacob strikes me as a guy that listens to the
evil
show.
one.
He's trying to be smart here, and
All right, question number 3. Nikola Jokic scored 35 points. He grabbed 22 rebounds. He dished out 17 assists in the Nuggets win over Sacramento last night. The Joker is just the second player in NBA history to record a 35-point, 20-rebound, 15-assist triple-double. Who was the first? Was it Joker? Was it Russell Westbrook, David Robinson, or Wilt Chamberlain?
It's got to be the Chamberlain.
Look at that.
There you
Jacob
go.
knows what he's doing here. Number 4, Saquon, Jake's boy. Sorry, Andy's
It's
boy.
okay.
Eagles running back Saquon Barkley has rushed for 324 so far this postseason. Who holds the record for most rushing yards in a single postseason? I would not have gotten this. John Riggins, Marcus Allen, Terrell Davis, or Eddie George?
Postseason, right?
Postseason record, Riggins, Allen, Davis, or George?
I'm just gonna go George.
That's a tough question.
I thought maybe Friday Night Lights ish. I don't know.
You're gonna lose me there.
That hint made sense to me, but maybe not you. Last one, a win by the Chiefs over the Bills on Sunday would put Pat Mahomes into his 5th Super Bowl, halfway to Tom Brady's record of 10 Super Bowl appearances. Who would Mahomes tie for second place with 5 Super Bowl appearances if the Chiefs end up winning on Sunday? Is it Joe Montana, Jim Kelly, John Elway, Terry Bradshaw?
I should know this, but I'm struggling. I'm just gonna guess Elway.
Sounds like Namath. I'm struggling.
That's exactly what I was thinking. I don't care about the team struggling. I want to kiss you.
He got the Andy Sweeney questions right.
Yes, he did.
Granted, I thought those were the easier ones. Mather and leading scorer, Wiltz and Elway. It was the Dallas Chaparrals and John Riggins. I don't know. Tim Riggins. I don't know. Friday Night Lights. Was that stupid?
It wasn't stupid. I knew where you were going. Unfortunately, Jacob did not know. I would not have obviously picked John Riggins out of all those players.
I would not at all. All right, getting you set again lineup-wise. Tonight you got Purdue and Michigan. That's 8 o'clock. Tomorrow, kind of a quiet day. You got Pacers at noon, though. Again, Michael Grady on the call for ESPN. That will be against the Spurs. DePaul and Butler. Chris Holtman back in Hinkle at 4 o'clock. And then before we get into our football championship weekend, Indiana, Maryland, Sunday at noon.
Yeah, busy weekend. We're back at it Monday at 7. You have Jake and Jimmy coming up at noon. JMV at 3 o'clock. Have a good weekend right here on The Fan.